Chapter 101, Resurrection of the Officials, Part 2. Drea tilts her head slightly, but she doesn't argue. She knows better. Alex leans forward, resting his forearms on the desk. I'm going to start reviving my officials. It'll lighten your workload. Drea's eyes flicker with understanding, but there's no sign of relief, just quiet acknowledgement. That would be wise, Your Majesty. The kingdom is growing faster than expected. More hands would ensure efficiency. Alex chuckles. So you do think I've been overworking you? Drea's lips twitch into the faintest of smiles. I would never say such a thing, Your Majesty. Alex shakes his head in amusement before his expression turns serious. Prepare the palace. Soon, we'll be welcoming some old faces back to life. Drea bows slightly. Understood. Alex leans back in his chair, his gaze settling on Drea. But first, tell me, how many gold coins do we have right now? Drea doesn't hesitate. With the two cities combined, we currently have over 300,000 gold coins. I already allocated 100,000 for development, so that leaves you with over 200,000 at your disposal, Your Majesty. Alex nods, satisfied. That should be enough money. Without wasting any more time, Alex stands. In an instant, the space around him distorts, and with a pulse of dark energy, he vanishes from his chamber. He reappears deep underground, in the resurrection room, a vast hall hidden beneath the palace. The air here is thick, heavy with an ancient power that lingers like a silent whisper. The walls are made of dark stone, their surfaces carved with intricate patterns of forgotten magic. Faint red luminescence pulses through the veins of the rock, casting eerie shadows that shift unnaturally. At the room's center stands the resurrection altar, a massive black stone slab, covered in glowing runes that pulse with deep crimson light. The moment Alex steps forward, the runes react, brightening as if recognizing his presence. A low hum resonates through the chamber. Alex places a hand on the altar. Immediately, a wave of energy rushes through him. The runes flicker, their crimson glow intensifying as Alex channels the gold coins into the altar. The energy surges outward, filling the chamber with a deep, resonant hum. One by one, the revival process begins. A dark mist rises from the altar, swirling violently before condensing into a physical form. The first figure solidifies, a towering, reptilian monster clad in heavy robes, his emerald-green scales gleaming under the dim light. His sharp, calculating eyes flick open. Lyric, Minister of Finance, Alex announces, watching as the newly revived official kneels before him. Your Majesty, Lyric breathes, his voice a deep, gravelly rumble. Thank you for reviving me. Alex nods. Your expertise is needed again. The kingdom has grown, and I require someone I can trust to oversee its economy. Lyric presses a clawed fist to his chest. It will be as you command. Before he can say more, the altar pulses again, and another figure emerges. This time, a slender, silver-furred beastkin takes shape. His piercing blue eyes dart around the chamber as if assessing everything in an instant. Valen, Minister of Intelligence, Alex states. Valen exhales sharply, flexing his claws before kneeling. Your Majesty, it seems much has changed. Alex smirks. A lot. I trust you'll get up to speed quickly? Of course, Valen replies smoothly. Information is my trade, after all. Another surge of power. The next figure forms, a hulking, dark-skinned ogre with 4 arms, his muscular body wrapped in ceremonial armor. His deep-set red eyes lock onto Alex as he drops to one knee. Thano, Minister of Infrastructure, Alex declares. Thano thumps his massive fist against his chest. It is an honor to serve again, Your Majesty. Tell me, what do you need built? Alex chuckles. You'll find plenty of work waiting for you. One after another, the officials continue to return. A hunched, bat-like humanoid with leathery wings and sharp, beady eyes, Morik, Minister of Commerce. A 3-eyed serpent-like being, his movements fluid and hypnotic, Cesari, Minister of Foreign Affairs. With each revival, Alex feels the weight of responsibility shifting, the burden of governance no longer solely on his shoulders. As the last of the officials kneel before him, he surveys them, satisfaction settling in his chest. "Welcome back," he says, his voice calm yet firm. The ministers kneel before him, their gazes filled with a mix of reverence and quiet determination. Alex lets the silence linger for a moment before speaking. "As you all can see," he begins, his voice steady, "in the last war all of you died, and we hit rock bottom." A heavy stillness fills the chamber. The memories of their deaths, the destruction of their kingdom, and the fall of their people flicker in their eyes. Even those who pride themselves on their composure, like Valen and Cesari, can't hide the flicker of emotions crossing their faces. "But things have changed," Alex continues. "Right now, the kingdom has 2 cities and over 300,000 residents. It's not what we once had, but it's a foundation, a new beginning." Lyric, the finance minister, inclines his head. 300,000. His reptilian eyes gleam with thought. Considering the rapid recovery, the economic structure must be unstable. "We'll need to regulate trade carefully to prevent inflation." Morik, the bat-like minister of commerce, clicks his tongue. "I assume human merchants are still active in our lands?" Alex nods. "Yes. Dalan City, in particular, is attracting attention." Alex glances at Thano. "Your department has the most immediate task. We need infrastructure to support our growth. Housing, roads, fortifications, everything." Thano grins, cracking his massive knuckles. "No complaints here, Your Majesty. Just give me workers, and I'll have cities rising in no time." The ministers exchange brief glances, their unspoken communication clear. They may have just returned from the dead, but their instincts remain sharp. Alex exhales, his gaze sweeping over them. "You all know what needs to be done. Get to work." One by one they bow. "As you command, Your Majesty." Without hesitation, they leave the resurrection room, each one already forming plans, strategies, and adjustments for the new reality of the kingdom. Alex watches them go, a small smirk playing at his lips. They'll adapt. They always do. Chapter 102, Kraz City. The next day, morning arrives, and the kingdom hums with renewed energy. The ministers, freshly revived yet already fully immersed in their duties, work with an efficiency. A knock sounds at his door. "Enter," Alex calls. Drea steps inside, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty," reports from the ministers. She hands him a neatly stacked set of documents. Alex flips through them, but before he can read the details, Drea speaks again. "Thano and Lyric are especially efficient," she notes. "Thano has already organized a workforce for infrastructure projects, and Lyric is implementing strict economic policies to stabilize trade and tax collection." Alex smirks. "Good. I expected nothing less." Down in the administrative halls, Thano towers over a large table, surrounded by new talented monsters. "We'll prioritize road expansions first," he rumbles, pointing at a map. His massive fingers tap key locations. "If we improve transport routes between Dalan and Mizorn, trade efficiency will increase." A lean goblin nods eagerly. "And that will lower the strain on the merchants, allowing more goods to circulate faster." "Exactly," Thano grunts. "After that, we reinforce the city walls. The humans might be watching, but if they ever get stupid, I want them to see fortifications they know they can't break through." The room fills with approving murmurs. Thano's practical approach reassures everyone present. This isn't just expansion, it's preparation for whatever comes next. Meanwhile, in the finance ministry, Lyric scans financial records with razor-sharp focus. His emerald green scales shimmer under the candlelight as his clawed hand scribbles notes. A subordinate, a harpy accountant, shifts nervously. "Minister, about the tax adjustments." "They stay," Lyric states firmly, not looking up. "If we lessen taxes too soon, we risk destabilizing growth. Keep them balanced." We need to build a treasury reserve before we make concessions. The harpy swallows and nods. Understood. Lyric finally looks up, his piercing gaze settling on her. Do you doubt my decision? And no, sir. Just making sure I understood correctly.
Lyric hoofs, satisfied.
Good. The kingdom is recovering, but rapid growth comes with risk. Stability is more important than reckless expansion. Back in Alex's chamber, Alex leans back in his chair after reviewing the reports. Everything is going smoothly, better than he anticipated. Alex taps his fingers against the armrest of his chair, his thoughts shifting toward the next step. I guess it's time to announce my kingdom to the world. Mizorn and Dalan are already under his control. His ministers are handling internal affairs well. Now it's time to establish their presence beyond their borders. Without hesitation, Alex calls out, Valen! A brief silence follows before the air in front of him distorts. Shadows ripple and twist until a tall, silver-furred beastkin materializes, his piercing blue eyes already locked onto Alex. You called, Your Majesty? Valen's voice is smooth, carrying a quiet sharpness. Alex meets his gaze. Spread the word. We will now announce our kingdom's name to the world. Make sure this news reaches the three kingdoms as well. Valen's bows. As you command. I will ensure the message is delivered far and wide. Without another word, he vanishes, his form dissolving into wisps of shadow. Alex leans back, exhaling slowly. Let's see how the world reacts. Inside the grand palace of Eldoria, King Edric sits in his chamber, a heavy sigh escaping his lips as he reads the report in his hands. The seal of the Intelligence Division marks the parchment, its contents clear and undeniable. The monsters occupying Mizorn and Dalan have declared their own kingdom, Eravaris. Edric rubs his temple, his expression weary. This wasn't entirely unexpected, but hearing it confirmed feels like a sharp blow nonetheless. A deep voice interrupts his thoughts. Your Majesty, Marshal Walric says, standing tall in his polished armor. Do you want me to station all our soldiers in Kraz City? It's close to Dalan. If those monsters expand further, Kraz will surely be their next target. Edric sets the report down and shakes his head. No, there's no need. His voice is calm but firm. We need to focus our strength on defending Veristand City. Walric frowns slightly but doesn't argue. Veristand is valuable, yes, but if we lose Kraz, it will weaken our defenses in the south. Edric exhales slowly, his gaze heavy with thought. We don't have a choice, Walric, he says, his voice quieter but firm. We can only abandon Kraz City. Walric stiffens. Your Majesty. They have a Tier 5 monster on their side. Edric cuts in, his expression grim. While we have none. The Marshal clenches his fists, his jaw tightening. He knows Edric is right. A Tier 5 monster alone is enough to wipe out an entire battalion. Holding Kraz against such a force would be suicide. Edric leans back in his chair, fingers steepled. Veristand, on the other hand, has a Tier 5 defensive spell from the Mage Tower. If they come for us, that's where we make our stand. Walric exhales sharply, his shoulders tense. Abandoning Kraz means giving them more ground. It means delaying an inevitable loss, Edric corrects. Kraz was a trade hub, but Veristand is different. If Eravaris expands further, they'll have to think twice before attacking it. The room falls into silence. The weight of the decision settles between them. Finally, Walric nods, his expression dark. I'll oversee the evacuation of Kraz and reinforce Veristand immediately. Good. Edric's voice is steady, but there's no triumph in it. Only the cold calculation of survival. As Walric turns to leave, Edric grips the armrest of his chair, his knuckles whitening. A monster kingdom, a Tier 5 force at their disposal, and we have nothing to match them. His gaze darkens. We need a way to fight back. The early morning mist clings to the ground as Sorin rides at the head of her force, the disciplined march of monsters echoing through the open plains. The city of Kraz rises in the distance, its modest walls a pale reflection of the grander fortifications of Dalan. Soren narrows her eyes. Too quiet. Chapter 103, Veristan City. She expected some resistance. Humans always clung stubbornly to their cities. But as they draw closer, there's no movement, no sign of soldiers reinforcing the gates. Then she sees it. A handful of guards stand atop the walls, their postures slumped. Above them, a white flag flutters weakly in the cold wind. Soren halts her mount, her crimson eyes flashing with suspicion. She raises a hand, signaling her forces to stop. Nasara beside her grunts. They surrendered already? Seems that way, Soren mutters, scanning the surroundings. She doesn't like it. Victory without a fight rarely feels like a victory at all. From the gates, a frail-looking man steps forward, dressed in hastily donned armor that barely fits. His voice wavers as he calls out, "We surrender. Kraz is yours." Soren studies him for a moment before nudging her beast forward. Her soldiers remain tense behind her, ready for any last-minute tricks. "Open the gates," she orders. The guards hesitate, then scramble to obey. As the gates creak open, Soren rides through first, eyes sweeping the near-empty streets. The city is eerily silent. Most of the buildings are intact, but the lack of people is glaring. "Where is the city lord?" she asks coldly, her gaze locking onto the man in front of her. The guard swallows hard. "Gone. Fled with most of the citizens. Only those who couldn't leave remain." Soren scoffs. "Cowards." She gestures, and her forces begin to spread through the streets, securing key locations with efficiency. There's no resistance, no hidden soldiers waiting to ambush them. Kraz has been abandoned in everything but name. A shadowy figure slips up beside her. One of her spies. "We confirmed it. Most of the humans evacuated days ago. The Ralthian army pulled back to reinforce Veristan." Soren clicks her tongue in annoyance. "So they're smarter than I thought." She turns to her forces. "Secure the town hall, the gold coins, and any supply caches left behind. We're fortifying this place." As her soldiers move through the city, ensuring their new territory is secured, Soren turns to the shadow still standing beside her. "Tell me about Veristan," she orders, her voice sharp and to the point. "What kind of city are we dealing with?" The shadow, a cloaked figure with a faintly distorted presence, bows slightly. "Veristan is nothing like Kraz. It is one of the strongest border cities under the Ralthian kingdom's rule. Unlike Kraz, which was mainly a trade hub, Veristan is a fortress city." Soren crosses her arms, listening intently. "Go on." The shadow continues, his tone calm but informative. "The city is built on elevated terrain, giving them a natural defensive advantage. Its walls are thick, reinforced with enchanted stone, and there is only one main gate. The rest is sheer cliffs. The Ralthian army has stationed at least 50,000 soldiers there right now, including elite knights and battle mages." Soren frowns slightly. "And their leadership?" "Veristan is now commanded by Marshal Walric, a peak tier 4 knight. He is a defensive specialist, known for holding ground against overwhelming forces. Reports indicate he is cautious but extremely disciplined." Soren exhales, processing the information. "So they are planning to stop us in this city." The shadow nods. "The most significant threat is the defensive magic cast over the city. The Mage Tower in Ralthian has placed a Tier 5 barrier spell around Veristan. It greatly reduces the effectiveness of direct attacks and negates large-scale magic bombardments." "Indeed," the shadow agrees. "Breaking through their defenses will not be as simple as marching in. Even with General Varkas, it will take time to destroy it." Soren listens in silence, her crimson eyes fixed on the city's direction. A heavily fortified city, a seasoned commander, and a powerful barrier spell. Veristan won't fall as easily as Kraz. She turns her gaze back to the shadow. "Send word to General Varkas immediately." The shadow bows slightly. "What message should I deliver?" "Tell him we've secured Kraz without a fight, but Veristan is different. If we're to take it, we need him to attack directly." His strength will be crucial in breaking their defenses. The shadow inclines his head. Understood. I will ensure he receives the message without delay. Hours pass, and the air grows thick with anticipation. Sorin stands atop the city walls of Kraz, watching the distant horizon. Then, a gust of wind stirs the air, carrying with it the scent of blood and wild earth. A shadow streaks across the sky. A hulking figure descends, his form silhouetted against the setting sun. With a controlled yet powerful landing, General Varkas touches down. The lycanthrope general straightens, his eyes gleaming like molten fire beneath his thick, crimson mane. His presence alone radiates power. Commander Sorin, Varkas rumbles, his deep voice carrying easily over the quiet city. I received the report. Sorin steps forward, offering a respectful nod. Yes, sir. We have secured Kraz without a fight, but Veristan will not be so easy. We need your strength if we want to conquer it. Varkas exhales through his nose, sharp fangs flashing as he smirks. A fortress city, strong defenses, and a Tier 5 barrier spell. He rolls his shoulders, the crack of his bones audible. Now that sounds like a proper battle. Nasara, standing nearby, grins. You're going to love this one, General. They're dug in tight, ready to fight to the last. Varkas chuckles, a deep, rumbling sound. Good. I've had enough of cities that crumble without a fight. His gaze shifts to the shadowy figure standing silently beside Sorin. The shadow straightens under the general's piercing eyes. What about Valeth? Did he succeed in infiltrating the city? Varkas asks, his tone curious. The shadow hesitates for a moment.
No, General Varkas.
We've received reports that no matter what they attempt, they can't get past the barrier. It's as if the magic itself detects any attempt to bypass it. Don't report this to His Majesty. Varkas commands, his voice steady but firm. I'm sure His Majesty has an item that could shatter that barrier effortlessly. But if we can't do this much, we aren't worthy of being his subordinates. Chapter 104, We Do Not Kneel. After that, they begin their preparations. Sorin, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha move swiftly, issuing commands to their troops. Each takes charge of their respective forces, ensuring their soldiers are fully armed and ready for the coming battle. Groth, the battle mage commander, gathers his spellcasters in the city's plaza. The air hums with magic as they refine their incantations, preparing for large-scale assaults and counterspells against Veristan's barrier. Varkas oversees everything from a high vantage point, his sharp eyes tracking the organized chaos below. He watches as supplies are distributed, siege weapons are assembled, and warriors steel themselves for war. As noon approaches, the preparations near completion. The city of Kraz, once eerily silent, now hums with the energy of an army on the move. Then, at last, Varkas raises a clawed hand. Enough waiting, he growls. His voice carries over the gathered forces, heavy with authority. We march. The command ripples through the ranks like a spark igniting dry grass. Sorin mounts her beast, her crimson eyes fixed on the path ahead. Nasara and Veltha do the same, while Thurn and Groth fall into formation with their troops. The ground trembles as thousands of soldiers begin their advance, moving as one unified force toward Veristan. After some time, they finally arrive at Veristan's towering walls. Marshal Walric stands atop the battlements, his expression grim as he watches the enemy forces march forward. Even though he commands 50,000 soldiers, outnumbering the enemy's 30,000, the sheer bloodlust radiating from the approaching army is overwhelming. His men shift uneasily, gripping their weapons tighter, sensing the difference in battle intent. Then his gaze lifts, and his breath stills. Floating above the battlefield is the lycanthrope general. Varkas hovers effortlessly, his crimson mane wild in the wind, his eyes burning like molten gold. The aura around him is suffocating, primal, and untamed. Even from this distance, Walric can feel it pressing down on him like an unseen weight. Walric clenches his fists, reminding himself that he is no weakling. At level 499, He is merely a step away from breaking into Tier 5. And yet, that final step is a chasm he cannot yet cross. The difference between a peak Tier 4 and an actual Tier 5 is like comparing a sturdy wall to an unbreakable mountain. Beside him, his 5 generals stand firm, each a Tier 4 powerhouse in their own right. One of them chuckles, attempting to lighten the tension. "Marshal, just relax." The man says with a smirk, "I can see you shaking even from here." Walrick exhales sharply, eyes still locked onto Varkas. "If you're so confident, why don't you take the lead when the fighting starts?" Another general, a stocky man with a scar across his jaw, crosses his arms. "No need to worry. The enemy only has one Tier 4 Thier commander. With the 4 of us available, we can help you fight that monster." Walrick snorts, turning to face them fully. His gaze sharpens. "Are you guys sure you want to fight a Tier 5 monster? Just the graze of a Tier 5 skill will kill any of you instantly." The generals exchange glances, their earlier confidence dimming just slightly. One of them, a lanky man with graying hair, shrugs. "We don't have much of a choice, do we? If we let you fight alone, the army's morale will shatter." Besides, another one adds, rolling his shoulders, "We're not planning to go toe-to-toe with him. We'll support you, create openings, and buy some time." A third general, the youngest among them, tightens his grip on his sword. "If we fight smart, we can buy time. Time for a surprise." He exhales slowly. "We might not be strong enough to kill him, but we can surely do that." A sudden gust of wind howls across the battlefield as Varkas slowly descends, his massive frame casting a long shadow over the soldiers below. Then, his deep, rumbling voice cuts through the tension. "Humans," Varkas drawls, his tone laced with both mockery and authority. "His Majesty is merciful. He offers you a choice. Surrender now and be spared, or stand against us and be slaughtered to the last." A ripple of unease spreads through the ranks of Ralthian soldiers. Even the most seasoned warriors grip their weapons tighter, feeling the weight of the lycanthrope's words. Some glance toward Walrick, searching for reassurance. Walrick steps forward, his face hardening. "And if we surrender, what then?" Varkas grins, his fangs glinting in the sunlight. "Then you will be given a new purpose under His Majesty's rule. Resist, and your corpses will serve as a message to the rest of your kingdom." He raises a clawed hand, gesturing lazily toward the city. "Veristan will be ours either way. The only question is whether you'll be standing when the flames rise." Walrick meets his gaze, unflinching. "The soldiers of Ralthian Kingdom does not kneel." Varkas chuckles, a low, guttural sound that rumbles like distant thunder. "Good," he murmurs. "I was hoping you'd say that." Varkas raises his hand, his claws crackling with dark crimson energy. The air grows heavy, thick with an oppressive force that makes the very ground tremble. A deep, guttural growl rumbles from his throat as he invokes his bloodline's power. Crimson Tyrant's grasp. A massive, glowing red lycanthrope hand materializes in the sky above. Its size is quite big. The weight of its presence alone sends waves of pressure crashing down on the battlefield. Walrick and his generals freeze. Their breaths grow ragged as an overwhelming sense of dread washes over them. It feels as if an entire mountain is descending from the heavens, threatening to crush them where they stand. The soldiers below fall to their knees, some gasping for air, others gripping their weapons in a futile attempt to fight against the suffocating force. Then, with a deafening roar, the Crimson Hand begins its descent. "Brace yourselves," Walrick shouts, tightening his grip on his halberd. His body screams at him to run, but he plants his feet firmly, refusing to show weakness. Just before the monstrous attack makes contact, the city's defensive barrier activates. A radiant golden dome materializes, its surface shimmering as ancient runes ignite with power. The impact is cataclysmic. As the Crimson Hand collides with the barrier, a shockwave erupts outward, flattening trees and sending soldiers flying backward. The ground cracks, and the very air vibrates from the sheer force of the clash. Fine fractures spread across the golden dome like spiderwebs, the powerful defenses barely able to withstand the overwhelming might of a Tier 5 skill. Gasps of horror echo from the soldiers within as they watch their city's last line of defense begin to fail. But just as suddenly as the cracks appear, they begin to mend. The golden light pulses, and in an instant, the barrier restores itself as if nothing had happened. The crimson hand flickers before shattering into nothingness, its energy spent. A tense silence falls over the battlefield. Then, like a trigger being pulled, one of the human general raises her staff high. Now, mages, unleash hell. With a unified roar, the city's spellcasters unleash a barrage of magical attacks. Fireballs, lightning bolts, and beams of raw arcane energy streak through the sky, converging upon Varkas and his forces.
Défensive formation.
Now, Nasara's voice cuts through the battlefield like a blade. The front lines of the monster army move in perfect synchronization. Towering warriors with massive shields slam them into the ground, a deep, resonating boom echoing as they activate their defensive skills. Layers of shimmering energy form over their bodies, and the very earth beneath them solidifies, reinforcing their stance. The sky erupts with fire and lightning as the human mages' spells rain down, but the monstrous vanguard does not waver. Explosions ripple across their ranks, yet their defenses hold firm, absorbing the devastating impact. Smoke and dust swirl, momentarily obscuring the battlefield. Then, as the wind clears the haze, the monstrous shield-bearers remain standing, unshaken. Nasara smirks. Ha! Not bad. Now retaliate. At his command, Groth raises his staff high, his eyes flashing with raw magic. Mages! Counterattack! Show them our might. A deafening surge of power erupts from the monstrous army's side. Dark energy bolts, searing flames, and streaks of violet lightning crackle through the air, answering the human barrage with overwhelming force. The sky erupts in chaos. Spells clash midair, exploding in violent bursts of light and smoke. The battlefield trembles under the force of the exchange, but the city's golden barrier, though flickering, still holds. Then a soldier come to Walric. Marshal, it's time. Walric's eyes narrow. Are you certain? The mages in the tower have begun casting. The barrier will collapse in moments. You must hold the enemy until we are finished. A heavy silence follows. Then Walric exhales sharply and grips his sword and shield. Understood. Tell them that we'll hold the line. The moment the golden barrier vanishes, the battlefield freezes. For a heartbeat, neither side moves. Then Varkas acts. With a feral snarl, the lycanthrope general vanishes from sight, a blur of motion too fast for the human eye to track. Boom! He lands in the heart of the city like a meteor, the impact sending a shockwave through the streets. Stone shatters beneath his feet, and buildings tremble from the force of his landing. Dust and debris swirl around him as he straightens, his golden eyes gleaming with anticipation. Before he can take another step, a figure streaks toward him. Clang! Walric's shield slams into Varkas's raised arm, the impact ringing out like a thunderclap. The sheer force of the collision sends a ripple through the ground, cracking the stone beneath their feet. Varkas grins, unfazed. You humans are quite brave. His voice rumbles, thick with amusement. Chapter 105. The Struggle of the Weak. The four generals waste no time. The scarred general, Orin, swings his massive battle axe in a brutal arc, aiming for Varkas's exposed ribs. The strike connects, but instead of flesh, the blade meets something far denser, bone-like armor hidden beneath his fur. Sparks fly as the axe skids off. He didn't even leave a shallow wound. Ha! Tough bastard, Orin mutters, yanking his weapon back. The lanky general, Jupus, steps in next, his twin daggers flashing. He moves like a wind, his blades seeking weak points in Varkas's defense. He strikes at the joints, the tendons, the unarmored patches of fur, each cut precise, calculated. Varkas moves with supernatural speed, twisting his body to avoid the worst of the attacks. Not bad, he growls. Then, with a sudden burst of strength, he swipes at Jupus with his massive claw. Jupus barely dodges. The tips of Varkas's claws graze his chest plate, carving deep gashes into the steel. He grits his teeth and rolls away, breathing hard. The youngest general, Elaine, channels a surge of magic into her sword. Crackling blue energy ignites along the blade's edge. With a powerful leap, she swings downward, aiming for Varkas's shoulder. Varkas doesn't move. He stands still, his golden eyes watching as Elaine's enchanted sword descends upon him. The blade crackles with raw energy, humming with the power of a Tier 4 skill. Thunderfang's strike. The moment the sword connects, an explosion of blue lightning erupts. The sheer force of the impact sends shockwaves rippling through the air, shaking the surrounding buildings. A blinding flash engulfs the area, forcing soldiers to shield their eyes. When the light fades, Elaine stumbles back, her breathing ragged. Her sword is still crackling with residual energy, the scent of burnt ozone thick in the air. Varkas remains unmoved. He stands there, completely unharmed. The spot where Elaine's blade struck, his shoulder, bears not a single wound. Not a burn mark, not a scratch. He rolls his shoulder lazily, as if shaking off a speck of dust. Elaine's eyes widen.
Impossible.
Before she can react, Varkas moves. His hand snaps out like a viper, seizing Elaine by the throat. He lifts her effortlessly off the ground, his grip tightening just enough to make her struggle. That was cute, he chuckles, his golden eyes gleaming. But let me show you the difference between us. Before he can finish, a burning wave of power surges through the air. Wrath of the War God. Orin charges, his entire body engulfed in a furious red aura. His axe glows a deep, blood red, and as he swings, the sheer force of the strike warps the air around it. This is his strongest Tier 4 skill, an attack that has cleaved through castle walls. Varkas simply raises a hand. The axe connects with his palm. A deafening shockwave explodes outward, sending debris flying in every direction. The sheer force of Orin's swing causes the ground beneath them to shatter. Soldiers are forced to shield themselves from the blast. But Varkas remains completely still. He doesn't even flinch. His hand grips the edge of the axe, stopping it in place with terrifying ease. Orin grits his teeth, pushing with all his strength, veins bulging. But it's useless. That all you got? Varkas asks, a flicker of disappointment in his voice. Then, without warning, he wrenches the axe out of Orin's grip and swings his other arm. Boom! Orin is sent hurtling backward, crashing through a ruined stone wall and disappearing into the rubble. Orin! Jupus snarls. He moves in a blur, twin daggers coated in a dark, venomous sheen as he activates his own Tier 4 skill. Phantom serpents dance. Jupus's movements become unpredictable, his speed doubling as afterimages of himself flicker around Varkas. His daggers strike from his claws swipe through the air with inhuman precision. Every strike Jupus makes is intercepted, his daggers meeting Varkas's claws in rapid succession. Sparks fly as steel clashes against his indestructible flesh. Jupus's attacks blur together, too fast for normal eyes to follow. But Varkas, he sees everything. Then he steps forward. Jupus barely has time to react. A fist slams into his gut. Jupus gasps, blood spurting from his mouth as he is lifted off the ground. The sheer force of the blow sends a shockwave through his body, his ribs audibly cracking. Then Varkas swings again, sending him skidding across the battlefield. He doesn't get up. The final general, a powerful mage named Celian, raises his staff, his expression grim. If brute force won't work, then let's even the odds. Celian slams his staff into the ground. Arcane symbols flare to life beneath him, golden energy surging outward like a tidal wave. Divine embrace. A radiant glow spreads across Walric and the remaining general. Varkas watches, intrigued. A Tier 4 buff spell. He tilts his head. All right, let's see if it makes a difference. Walric grips his sword tighter. The golden energy pulses through his veins, filling him with renewed strength. This is our last chance, he roars. Everyone, attack together. Elaine, still gasping for breath, nods. Orin, battered but not broken, grips his axe once more. Jupus, despite his cracked ribs, forces himself to stand. Celian begins chanting another spell. They move as one. Elaine strikes first. Her sword blazes with golden lightning, the power of the divine embrace amplifying her Thunderfang strike tenfold. Orin follows up, his axe shrouded in fiery energy as he swings with all his might. Jupus vanishes in a flicker of shadow, reappearing behind Varkas, his daggers flashing toward the lycanthrope's spine. And Walric activates his strongest skill. Judgment Breaker. His sword ignites in pure, searing white energy, the very air vibrating from the sheer power contained within. He lunges, aiming straight for Varkas's heart. The attacks land. A massive explosion engulfs the battlefield, golden light flooding the streets. The sheer force of their combined assault sends shockwaves tearing through buildings, shattering stone and glass. The ground itself cracks under the impact. Chapter 106, Tier 5 Spells, Oblivion Spear. For a moment, just a moment, hope flickers in their eyes. Then the dust clears, and Varkas stands there. The only sign that he was even hit: thin, shallow scratches across his arms and chest. His golden eyes burn with excitement. Now that actually tickled. Elaine stares in disbelief. No way. As the golden light fades, dust and debris swirl through the air. Soldiers squint through the haze, waiting, hoping to see their enemy fall. But as the dust settles, a massive, unmoving silhouette emerges. Varkas still stands. His eyes gleam with something between amusement and disappointment. His fur, once pristine, now bears faint scorch marks. A thin, almost imperceptible cut decorates his cheek, a single drop of dark blood trickling down. He touches the wound absent-mindedly, then chuckles. There's still more. His deep, rumbling voice carries across the battlefield, filled with quiet mockery. Walric feels his stomach drop. He can see it in the others, the exhaustion, the creeping despair. Even with their strongest attacks, they've only managed to scratch. Elaine stumbles back, her hands shaking around her sword. We gave it everything. Orin grits his teeth, sweat dripping down his brow. That monster is still standing like it was nothing. Jupus, despite the pain in his ribs, forces a smirk. At least we made him bleed. That's something, right? Walric grips his sword tightly. His body is screaming at him, his muscles burning with exhaustion. He refuses to let it show. We're not done yet, he growls. Then, the air shifts. A deep, resonant hum echoes across the battlefield. The ground trembles as an invisible force pulls at the air itself, drawing all mana toward a single point. Every soldier, every monster, every living being on the battlefield feels it. A force beyond comprehension, an oppressive weight pressing down on their very souls. Walric's eyes widen. The Mage Tower, high above the battlefield. The towering spire hums with raw, concentrated mana. The sky above it darkens, swirling with storm clouds. But this is no ordinary storm. Streaks of violet lightning arc across the heavens, twisting unnaturally as if alive. The very air vibrates, charged with an immense, terrifying energy. Celian staggers, his breath hitching. They did it. The Tier 5 spell is complete. Varkas watches the tower, eyes narrowing slightly. Oh! The hum intensifies. Arcane symbols blaze into existence across the surface of the tower, ancient runes pulsing with unimaginable power. Mana is no longer merely being drawn in, it is being devoured, sucked into a singularity forming at the tower's peak. A voice, deep and resonant, echoes across the battlefield. It is not a single voice, but many layered, overlapping, the synchronized chant of dozens of mages speaking as one. The words are ancient, older than kingdoms, a language of pure magic. In the name of the first flame, in the shadow of the abyss, we call forth the judgment of the heavens. The sky darkens further. The swirling vortex above the mage tower expands, stretching across the battlefield. The very fabric of reality groans under the pressure of the spell. Lightning does not merely strike. It coils and writhes, seeking form, growing denser with each passing second. Varkas's amused expression falters ever so slightly. He does not fear magic, but he recognizes power. And this is something else. The chanting continues, rising in intensity. By the blood of the ancients, by the will of the stars, we unshackle the wrath long bound. The ground quakes violently. The air itself becomes difficult to breathe, as if all the mana in the world is being funneled into one singular point. Walric forces himself to stand despite the weight pressing down on him. His fingers tighten around his sword. This is beyond anything we've ever used before. Elaine stares up at the sky, sweat rolling down her temple. I've read about Tier 5 spells, but to witness one, Celian, still on the ground, manages a weak, knowing grin. Not just any Tier 5 spell. This one is destruction incarnate. Above the tower, the vortex of lightning begins to take shape. A colossal spear, formed of pure, condensed mana. It crackles with terrifying power, its very presence warping the sky around it. It is not fire, nor ice, nor light. This is something primal, something far older than mortal magic. A weapon of annihilation. The final words of the chant echo like a divine decree. Oblivion Spear. The moment the words are spoken, the spell is unleashed. The spear descends. For a fraction of a second, time itself seems to stop. The world holds its breath. Then, a cataclysm. The battlefield is drowned in blinding light. The impact is unlike anything ever witnessed before. The sheer force of the descent fractures the very ground, shockwaves rippling outward with the force of 1,000 storms. The city trembles as buildings crumble under the weight of the energy released. Soldiers are flung back like leaves in a hurricane. And at the center of it all, Varkas. A deafening, defiant sound that echoes through the chaos. The Oblivion Spear strikes. A blinding explosion engulfs the battlefield, swallowing everything in its path. The shockwave expands outward. For long, excruciating seconds, the world is nothing but light and fury. Then silence. Thick smoke blankets the battlefield. The once proud streets are reduced to molten craters. The land itself is scarred, burned black by the sheer force of the spell. The silence is deafening. Walric stares at the destruction, his breathing ragged. The battlefield, no, the very land itself, is unrecognizable. The sheer force of the spell has carved a massive crater into the earth, its edges still glowing with molten heat. The air is thick with ash and mana residue, distorting everything like a mirage. He swallows hard. His hands tremble. This is what a Tier 5 spell is. He finally understands. The reason he has never broken through, the reason so few ever do, is not a matter of talent, not a matter of training. It's because Tier 5 spells or skills is beyond human. Even standing near it, witnessing it with his own eyes, he can feel it. This power doesn't just require mastery. It requires something else entirely. Something more. Chapter 107. Keep no one alive. His grip loosens on his sword. A bitter realization settles in his chest. Can I even reach that level? He mutters under his breath. Elaine glances at him, but she has no answer. No one does. Then, the smoke shifts. A gust of wind rushes through the battlefield, parting the thick haze of destruction. And there, standing at the center of the devastation, is Varkas. He's alive. His massive frame is hunched forward, his claws dug into the scorched ground to keep himself upright. His fur, once pristine, is now singed and tattered. Blood drips from countless wounds, staining the cracked earth beneath him. His breathing is labored, his chest rising and falling in heavy, ragged motions. But his golden eyes burn brighter than ever. That, Varkas exhales, then grins, sharp and wild. That almost got me. He straightens slowly, the faint tremble in his limbs betraying the toll the spell has taken. His muscles pulse with residual energy, the lingering effects of the buffs he activated just in time. His Tier 4 reinforcement buffs, his singular Tier 5 enhancement, and most crucially his Bloodline's Tier 5 skill. His body has changed. His once dark fur now bears streaks of silver, crackling faintly with latent energy. His claws, longer and sharper, shimmer with a faint, unnatural glow. The air around him feels heavier, denser. More than just a beast. More than just a warrior. He breathes in deeply, the scent of scorched earth filling his lungs. Then he exhales, rolling his shoulders. That spell, something only a level 560+ being could conjure, and it's hurt getting hit by it. Varka's thought. Walric watches, a cold pit forming in his stomach. Even after all of that, even after facing the full might of a Tier 5 annihilation spell, Varka's is still standing. Not unscathed, but alive. And worse, he looks excited. Elaine grips her sword tightly, her knuckles white. That thing. Just what is he? No one answers, because at this moment they all feel it. The difference. The gap between them and Varka's. Varka's clenches his fists, his claws digging into his own palms. His entire body trembles, not from pain, but from rage. He made a promise, a simple promise. I will not put myself in danger. His Majesty had ordered him, and yet here he is battered, burned, bloodied, by a bunch of humans who weren't even Tier 5. His fury boils over, and then he vanishes, a blur of motion, faster than sight, faster than thought, before anyone can react. Shunk. Celian's head rolls across the scorched ground. His body remains standing for a fraction of a second before crumpling. Silence. Elaine lets out a strangled gasp. Jupus's eyes widen in horror. Orin stumbles back. Then, shunk. Jupus doesn't even have time to scream before his body is cleaved in two. Orin also died in seconds. 3 generals. Dead. Just like that. The battlefield stands frozen. Every soldier paralyzed by sheer terror. And then, stop, you monster! Marshal Walric's roar cuts through the silence. He charges, sword raised, desperation and fury in his eyes. Varka's barely spares him a glance. With a flick of his wrist, his clawed hand swings. Boom! Walric is sent flying. His body slams into the ruined stone wall of a half-destroyed building, the impact loud enough to crack bone. He crumples to the ground, coughing blood. His entire body screams in agony. Walric forces himself to move, pushing through the agony. Every breath feels like fire in his lungs, but he doesn't stop. He can't. Not now. Not when the entire battlefield is crumbling into despair. With blood dripping from his lips, he lifts his head and roars. Retreat! His voice echoes across the ruins, raw and desperate. All units, fall back. Now! Soldiers snap out of their frozen terror. The moment the order registers, chaos erupts. Boots slam against shattered stone. Armor clanks as they turn and flee, scrambling over debris and bodies alike. Elaine hesitates, her trembling hands gripping her sword. Walric! Geo! He snarls, eyes locked onto the towering figure in front of him. Varka's watches, eyes flickering with amusement as the army scatters. They run well, he muses. Then he turns his gaze back to Walric, tilting his head. But you won't run? Walric plants his feet, his entire body pulsing with golden light. Every buff he has, every ounce of strength he can squeeze from his battered frame. A last stand, even if it's just for seconds. He knows he can't win. But if he can hold enemy down, if he can give them time, that will be enough. He grips his sword with both hands, the runes along the blade igniting with violent energy. You! He spits blood onto the ground. You're not getting past me. Varkas watches him for a moment, head slightly tilted, as if trying to understand the sheer stubbornness in front of him. Then he exhales through his nose. His massive shoulders relax just a fraction, the tension in his claws easing. His eyes glint in the flickering light of the battlefield. Since you're so determined, He takes a step forward. The ground beneath his foot cracks. I'll kill you in one swift move. Walric grits his teeth, every muscle in his body coiled tight. His aura flares violently, golden energy wrapping around his battered form like a final, desperate shield. His mind is racing, searching for anything, any opening, any chance, but Varkas moves first, faster than thought, a blur. And then, the world tilts. Walric doesn't feel pain at first, just a sudden, terrifying lightness. Then, a wet thud. His body collapses to the ground. But his head, his vision spins and he sees it. The battlefield, the retreating soldiers, Elaine screaming his name. And then darkness. As the dust settles from Varkas's final strike, a figure appears beside him, swift and silent, her gaze assessing the scene. Her eyes linger on the smoldering battlefield, the scattered corpses, and the lingering remnants of the Tier 5 annihilation spell. General. Soren speaks evenly, her voice sharp yet composed. I saw that spell from the Mage Tower. I didn't think it would actually push you this far. Chapter 108. Building Blueprints. Varkas wipes the blood from his jaw, his eyes still sharp but calmer. Those humans. They were more troublesome than expected. Soren's gaze flicks to the retreating army. Soldiers are scattered, stumbling over debris, their faces painted with terror. Sir, should we go after the fleeing enemy? Varkas snorts, rolling his shoulders. There's no need. The shadows will take care of them. Elaine leads the retreat, her legs heavy, her mind numb. The image of her fallen companions, Celian, Jupus, Orin, and Walric, flashes over and over. Her breaths come in ragged gasps, but she forces herself to keep running, leading the survivors. 5,000 soldiers, just a fraction of what they were, trailing behind her. Then shadows move, figures emerge, swift, ruthless, silent. One by one, the fleeing soldiers fall. Blood splatters, cries of desperation pierce the chaos. Elaine's heart pounds. She grits her teeth, forcing her eyes forward, until a presence materializes before her. Valeth. His cold, impassive gaze meets hers. His twin daggers gleam, still wet with blood. Elaine's heart tightens. Her grip on her sword trembles. Why? She screams, her voice strained and desperate. We're already retreating. Why do you have to go this far? Valeth's eyes narrow, his expression unyielding. Why? He repeats, his voice a chilling calm. We are at war. This is what happens when you make an enemy of His Majesty. Elaine's breath catches, her heart sinking as she stares into Valeth's unyielding eyes. There is no remorse, no hesitation. Only cold, calculated duty. News of the devastating defeat at Veristan City spreads swiftly across the Ralthian kingdom, carried by messengers whose faces are etched with dread. Rumors of Marshal Walric's fall and the annihilation of 50,000 soldiers ripple like a shockwave. Panic grips the city closest to Veristan. Families abandon their homes, carts overflowing with hastily packed belongings. Streets once bustling with merchants and traders now echo with the clamor of fearful footsteps. Mothers clutch their children tightly. Men hurriedly secure what little valuables they can carry, and guards struggle to maintain some semblance of order. They're coming. The monsters will come here next. A man shouts, his voice thick with fear. Veristan fell. Not a single one of them made it back. A woman wails. Inside the royal palace, in the grandeur of the royal chamber, King Edric slumps on his throne. His face is ashen, his fingers digging into the gilded armrests. He stares blankly at the ground, his mind grappling with disbelief.
No.
How did this happen? Edric's voice trembles, hollow and strained. We poured everything into Veristan. Resources, soldiers, our greatest mages. And still we lost? Not a single soldier survived. Beside him, Queen Nephia stands silently. Her hand rests gently on his shoulder, a steady presence amidst the storm of despair. Though her expression remains composed, her grip on Edric tightens, grounding him. Edric! She begins softly, but there is no continuation, no assurance she can offer. What words could mend the shattering truth before them? Edric's gaze hardens, frustration bubbling beneath his grief. His fists clench, knuckles whitening. Our kingdom, our people, if 50,000 soldiers could not hold them back, then what chance do we have? Queen Nephia moves to face him, her eyes searching his. We still stand, she whispers firmly. Ralphion still stands. As long as we do, there is a chance. Edric's expression falters, the weight of his doubt bearing down on him. For a moment, silence fills the chamber, heavy and suffocating. Then, Nephia's voice breaks through gently, yet resolute. Husband, what if we try to speak with them? What if we invite the king of the monsters and seek a truce? Perhaps there is a way to end this peacefully. Edric's eyes widen slightly, surprise flickering across his face. A truce? With them? After all we've done to the monsters over the years. Slaughtering their kind, pushing them back, making them our slaves. I don't think they would consider peace now, when they have every reason to seek revenge. Nephia meets his gaze firmly. And yet, if we do nothing, what future is left for Ralphion? If there is even the slightest chance that a dialogue could save our people, shouldn't we take it? Isn't it worth trying? He sighs heavily. Even if we wanted to, even if we reached out, would they listen? What reason would they have to trust us now? To forgive us, when they hold every advantage? Nephia's grip on his arm strengthens. I don't know, she admits quietly. But I know that if we do nothing, we condemn our people to death. If there is a chance, however small, we owe it to them to try. Edric closes his eyes, a pained expression crossing his face. The thought of kneeling before the monsters, seeking peace, goes against every instinct he has as a king. But the faces of his people, their fear, their desperation, press on his heart. Send out a messenger, he finally says, his voice strained. Extend the offer. If the king of monsters refuses, then we prepare for the worst. Nephia's shoulders ease slightly, a glimmer of hope softening her gaze. Thank you, Edric, for considering it. Inside his work chamber, Alex leans back in his chair, his eyes fixed on the transparent floating screen before him. The golden numbers, 1,500,000 gold coins, gleam brightly. The spoils from Veristan City's fall have added a significant boost to his resources. Who should I revive? Alex mutters to himself, fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk. Names and faces of powerful figures flash through his mind, warriors of immense strength, mages capable of calling forth disaster with their spells, strategists who had aided him greatly. The power to bring any of them back is in his grasp.
No.
I should use this money to build something. He muses, his gaze narrowing. To strengthen the cities, to give them purpose. He has 4 cities now under his banner. The system can build upon them as long as he has blueprints and gold coins. In his system inventory, countless building blueprints sit untouched. Standing, Alex pulls up the map of his growing kingdom on the screen. Each city marked his capital, Mizorn, Veristand, Dalan, Kraz. Each unique, but undefined. They need identity, a reason to thrive beyond just serving as territories. Chapter 109. New look of his 4-city, Part 1. After settling on his plans for each city's development, Alex calls for Thano. As he waits, he recalls the nature of the blueprints within his system inventory. Blueprints have distinct rarities, bronze at the lowest, followed by iron, silver, gold, diamond, and the rarest of them all, divine. Divine blueprints are so rare that out of millions of players in the game, there are only 1,000 in total owned by players, more precious than even divine items. Alex doesn't have a divine blueprint. The odds of obtaining one are nearly non-existent. They drop randomly from bosses or dungeons, pure luck. Furthermore, Iron Tier blueprints and above require a builder to construct, which is why Thano's expertise is necessary. A firm knock on the chamber doors pulls Alex from his thoughts. Enter, he calls. Thano steps inside, a tall, robust man with a composed demeanor. His neatly tied gray hair and sharp eyes reflect years of experience managing constructions and urban planning. Your Majesty, Thano bows slightly. You called for me? Yes, Thano. I have plans for our cities. Alex begins, looking at the floating screen displaying the kingdom's map. I want each city to have its own identity. I've been sitting on these blueprints for too long, and it's time to put them to use. Thano steps closer, studying the screen. A wise choice, Your Majesty. Our cities need a foundation to thrive, something beyond just military strength. Exactly, Alex nods. I want Mizorn to be a center of everything. A great city where you can do anything. For Veristand, an academy to train mage. The third city, Dalan, will become an artisan city, a place known for craftsmanship and creating valuable artifacts. And Kraz, a trade hub with a grand market. Thano listens intently, his eyes sharp. Ambitious, but achievable with your resources, Your Majesty. However, the construction of these will require skilled workers, materials, and time. Some of the higher-tier blueprints, iron and above, will need my oversight to ensure efficiency. That's why I need you, Alex says. I have the blueprints and the gold. I need you to coordinate the workforce and ensure these cities develop according to this vision. Thano's lips curve into a slight smile. Leave it to me, Your Majesty. I'll begin organizing the builders and resources immediately. After Thano leaves, Alex returns to his seat, his thoughts still lingering on the ambitious plans for his cities. He barely has a moment to collect himself when another knock sounds at the door. Enter, Alex says. The door opens and Cisari steps inside. Cisari's presence carries an air of sophistication. Her eyes glimmer with intelligence, and her long, sleek black hair is tied in an elegant knot. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cisari's insight into diplomacy and politics is unmatched. Your Majesty, Cisari begins with a respectful bow. I bring news from the Ralthian Kingdom. They've requested a peace talk. They wish to discuss terms of truce. Alex leans back in his chair, fingers interlaced as he contemplates the message. A peace talk, huh? Cisari studies his expression carefully. Should we accept it, Your Majesty? After a brief pause, Alex meets her gaze. What do you think, Cisari? How should we approach this? Cisari's lips curl thoughtfully. Your Majesty, while accepting the truce could allow us to focus on strengthening our kingdom and solidifying our gains, there is also merit in pushing them further, forcing them into a corner where they have no choice but to become a subject state. We hold the upper hand, and many of our citizens demand retribution after years of oppression and slaughter. Alex nods slowly. The weight of history hangs heavy, the suffering of the monsters in this world, enslaved, hunted, and treated as little more than vermin by the human kingdoms. The momentum of victory is with them now, and the monsters who have suffered for so long look to him for justice. His thoughts drift to the refugees monsters who have fled from Ralthian, Ordea, and Valgros to find safety in his lands. Their faces, scarred by fear and loss, flash through his mind. They don't just want peace. They want justice, vengeance for what was taken from them. You're right, Alex finally says, his voice resolute. We won't settle for just a truce. We'll drive them to the edge until submission is their only choice. Cisari's eyes gleam with approval. Understood, Your Majesty. Shall I craft a response that maintains the appearance of considering their offer while we continue our advance? Yes, Alex replies firmly. Delay the talks. Keep them uncertain. In the meantime, we strengthen our defenses, consolidate our territories, and make sure every monster under our banner knows this is their home, a place where they are safe, but also a place that will fight for their right to exist. Cisari bows deeply. As you command, Your Majesty. I will see to it immediately. As she leaves, Alex's gaze shifts back to the map on the floating screen. The Ralthian kingdom is weakened, its people fearful, its leadership desperate. Yet, they still hold onto their arrogance, the belief that monsters are beneath them. A month passed by, and the once quiet cities of Alex's growing kingdom are now bustling with life. The air of each city are filled with the sound of hammers striking metal, saws slicing through wood, and the chatter of citizens eager for a future beyond survival. In Mizorn, Thanos' vision begins to take shape. Streets are widened, new buildings rise, and marketplaces expand. Merchants from various monster races set up shops, orc blacksmiths selling finely crafted weapons, goblin engineers displaying intricate contraptions, and alchemists brewing potent elixirs. Mizorn is becoming a city where anyone, no matter their race or background, can find purpose. In Veristand, the Academy of Arcane Arts stands as a towering structure of stone and enchanted crystal. Mages from different races, many of whom had once hidden their abilities for fear of persecution, now openly practice and learn. Young monsters practice incantations in designated training grounds, their eyes filled with hope and ambition. The streets hum with the presence of scholars, apprentices, and instructors sharing knowledge long forbidden. Dalan, the artisan's city, overflows with creativity. Artisans carve sculptures, weave enchanted fabrics, and forge weapons that hold intricate designs. Chapter 110, New Look of His City, Part 2. The forges blaze day and night, and the sound of hammering echoes through the streets. A blacksmith and an artisan argue playfully over the best forging techniques, drawing a small crowd amused by their passionate banter. Crafting guilds are established, and competitions of artistry foster friendly rivalry. In Kraz, the trade hub, the grand market teems with life. Stalls overflow with goods, fresh produce from monster farms, jewelry crafted from rare ores, and exotic beasts tamed by experienced handlers. Caravans from Mizorn and Veristand travel to Kraz, turning the roads into lifelines of commerce. Trade agreements are negotiated, and the human merchants from the three kingdoms coming regularly curious about this kingdom of monsters. The atmosphere is a blend of excitement and curiosity, with whispers of prosperity on everyone's lips. Inside his private chamber, Alex observes the system screen, his eyes fixed on the population counter as it finally reaches 500,000. A golden notification appears, and a surge of power rushes through him. His level unlocks, climbing to 500. Alex clenches his fist, feeling the strength coursing through his body. Finally, level 500. He murmurs, a small smile of satisfaction crossing his face. The experience he's gained from the battles, the growth of his kingdom, everything culminates in this moment. But then his gaze shifts to the requirement for the next level. Requirement to unlock level 600. 2 million citizens. His excitement fades, his expression falling. 2 million, that's a lot. Reclining back in his chair, Alex releases a breath. The growth so far has been significant, but reaching 2 million citizens will be a monumental challenge. Expanding territory, accepting more refugees, everything will have to be amplified. A knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. "Your Majesty, may I come in?" Recognizing Drea's voice, Alex straightens. "Enter." Drea steps inside, a warm smile on her face. "I brought you some tea, Your Majesty. You seem deep in thought." Alex chuckles softly, the tension easing. "Just considering the future, Drea. There's still so much to do." Drea sets the tray of tea on the small table beside Alex. The fragrant aroma of herbs fills the room, soothing yet invigorating. She pours a cup and hands it to him with a gentle smile. Alex takes a sip, savoring the warmth. "Drea, what do you think of the current state of the kingdom?" Drea's expression turns thoughtful. "Your Majesty, although it's still far from what our kingdom used to be, it's progressing rapidly faster than I expected. That's a testament to your brilliance and leadership." Alex chuckles, a hint of playfulness in his voice. "It's good to hear." Drea laughs softly, her golden eyes glimmering. "The people believe in you, they see the changes, the hope you've brought. That's not an easy feat, especially after all they've endured." Alex's gaze shifts to the floating screen, the ever-present system that monitors his kingdom. The weight of responsibility lingers, but so does the satisfaction of knowing their efforts are bearing fruit. "Well then," Alex sets the teacup down and stands. "I think it's time I get back to training. I need to familiarize myself with the new skills and spells I've unlocked. Drea nods, her expression encouraging. Of course, Your Majesty. Should I prepare anything for your training session? Alex waves a hand dismissively but with a grin. No need. I just need to see what these new Tier 5 skills can do. Besides, it'll be good to push myself a little. With a respectful bow, Drea watches as Alex leaves the chamber. After some time, Alex exits the training chamber, his steps light and a satisfied smile lingering on his face. The power of the Tier 5 skills still thrums within him. Each spell felt like wielding the force of a storm. The sheer destructive capability and control they grant are beyond any Tier 4 skills or spells. Tier 5. It's a whole different realm of power, he mutters to himself. I can see why beings who reach this level are considered legends in the Three Kingdoms. As the rush of excitement gradually settles, Alex straightens his posture and nods firmly. Next, I need to visit the cities one by one. I want to see how much progress Thano has made. Standing alone in his private chamber, despite all he's achieved, he realizes that the people know of their king but have never truly seen him. His rule is felt through the laws, the protection, and the progress, but his presence remains a mystery, a legend whispered in the streets. Maybe it's time I change that, but not right now. Alex muses, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Alex activates his item, altering his appearance. His towering, imposing figure shifts, his features now those of a common hobgoblin. His skin turns a dusky green, his ears slightly pointed, and his build sturdy but not overly imposing. Dressed in simple, rugged clothes, he looks like any other hobgoblin. With a focused thought, Alex activates his teleportation skill, and the world around him blurs briefly before solidifying again. He is in the alleyway where no one can see him teleported. Alex steps out into the bustling streets of the city. The lively chatter of monsters fills the air, orc merchants bargaining, goblins darting between stalls, and trolls casually guarding the gates. His keen gaze captures the intricate blend of cultures converging in this city. As he walks, a group of younger monsters, natives of the forest, mostly goblins and kobolds, pass by, talking excitedly. Did you hear? A goblin says. They say a ogre's joined the army. A real one. And ogres? A kobold yips, wide-eyed. I thought they were just a myth. Nah. The goblin grins, pride gleaming in his eyes. Not anymore. There's a lot of monsters like that now. Alex chuckles softly, amused by their enthusiasm. When he first arrived, a hobgoblin alone was enough to be considered a legend, an apex predator of the forest. But now they stroll the streets like regular citizens. Creatures once feared and whispered about now stand as neighbors. Chapter 111. My kingdom is taking shape. As he continues, a group of orcs and lizard folk sit at a makeshift tavern, drinking and sharing tales. I heard one of the minotaurs broke a training dummy clean in half. An orc rumbles. Just with a headbutt. The lizard folk flicks his tongue thoughtfully. Who would have thought that we monsters would have a day like this? The orc leans back, his drink sloshing slightly in his mug. Do you know the appearance of our king? He made all this, made us live comfortably. We should at least remember his face. We don't even know our king's name. The lizard man shrugs, his scaled tail curling lazily. No one knows the appearance of our king. There's a rumor, though, that the capital city of the kingdom is so majestic that soldiers say it's like something out of a storybook. The orc grunts, a hint of envy in his tone. That's right. I tried to apply to become a soldier, but I didn't pass. Those who make it into the capital never want to leave. Must be something to see. Similar conversations echo throughout the streets, from the lively market corners to the shadowed alleys. Stories of the unseen king who united them all are shared by old warriors and young monsters alike. Alex listens quietly, the corners of his mouth curving into a faint smile. It's a curious experience to hear his own mythos recounted to him, exaggerated and reshaped by each telling. Eventually, Alex's steps take him to the heart of Mizorn, where several inns stand side by side. Some are modest, catering to travelers passing through, while others boast larger, more established presences. However, at the center of it all stands the iron hearth in one of his blueprints. The building structure is solid and polished. The walls are reinforced stone, but the windows and archways have artistic carvings that reflect a monster's craftsmanship. He steps inside, and the atmosphere is immediately welcoming. Laughter and conversation fill the air. A group of goblins bicker playfully with a troll bartender, while a gnoll waitress serves drinks with a toothy grin. Despite the diversity of the patrons, there's a sense of camaraderie, like everyone here belongs. Alex notes the staff, efficient, polite, and seamless in their work. The blueprints he created, just like in the game, don't only provide the structure but also the people to maintain it. Workers who seem as if they have their own lives, personalities. It still amazes him sometimes how the game mechanics have molded reality here. As Alex steps deeper into the bustling inn, several staff members glance his way. There's a brief flicker of recognition in their eyes, a glimmer that tells him they know exactly who he is. Their king, their creator. Despite his changed appearance, no disguise can fool those born from his blueprints. But Alex's thoughts reach out, a silent command that echoes through their minds. Just act like I'm not here. Welcome to the Iron Hearth. What can I get for you today? She asks, her voice chipper and genuine. Alex smiles, playing the part of a regular customer. Just a meal, something hearty, and a drink to go with it. Coming right up, the gnoll chirps, jotting down the order before moving away. Alex chooses a seat near a window, his gaze drifting over the lively patrons. Conversations overlap, adventurers boasting of their hunts, traders discussing deals. A trio of young goblins eagerly planning to explore the dungeon. As Alex quietly eats his meal, a group of monsters at the table beside him start a lively conversation. There are 2 wolfkin, a lizard folk, and a satyrs, their plates half empty and mugs clinking occasionally. Hey, do you guys want to check out the new dungeon that's about to open? The wolfkin says, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Yeah, I do, the satyrs replies eagerly. But I heard you need to be at least tier 2 to enter it or have a tier 2 in your group. The other wolfkin grumbles, scratching his head. Tier 2, huh? I'm still tier 1. Barely got any skills worth bragging about. The lizard man leans back with a smug flick of his tail. Well, then you're in luck. I just broke through to tier 2 yesterday. The group pauses, staring at the lizard man in surprise. Seriously? The satyrs asks, his eyes wide. That's awesome. The orc with the chipped tusk slaps the lizardman's shoulder with a hearty laugh. Looks like we got our ticket, boys. With a tier 2 in our group, we can explore that dungeon. After finishing his meal, Alex leaves the Iron Hearth Inn and continues his exploration of Mizorn. The streets remain lively, filled with monsters of all shapes and sizes, each seeming to have found their own place in this growing city. Despite knowing that Thano had limited resources, Alex feels satisfied with what he sees. The city has a sense of life, a vibrancy that no human settlement he's visited could replicate. Even with the Iron Tier blueprints, the buildings surpass what the 3 human kingdoms could build. With a thought, Alex teleports to Delon, the city known as the hub of blacksmiths and artisans. As he appears in the heart of the city, the sound of hammers clanging on anvils and the crackling of forges fills the air. Monsters with soot-covered faces, some carefully etching intricate designs on weapons, and even shaping raw iron with ease, it all unfolds before him. A pair of cyclopses argue loudly over the best way to temper a massive greatsword. A kobold with delicate, precise movements inspects a set of jeweled daggers, ensuring the balance is just right. Hey, I told ya, quenching it too fast will make it brittle. A cyclops bellows, waving a hammer. Bah! And I said it'll hold just fine. We ain't making decorations here. The other retorts. Nearby, a old monster instructs a young ogre on shaping armor plates. Steady, keep your strikes measured. Armor isn't just metal, it's protection. The Minotaur rumbles. Chapter 112. Celestia Magisterium. Alex takes it all in, the organized chaos of the artisans working tirelessly. The city lives up to its reputation. As he walks, he overhears a conversation between a group of human merchants dressed in fine clothes. How can these monsters craft weapons like this? One merchant mutters, his eyes wide as he inspects a rack of spears. This quality, some are better than the famous blacksmiths in the Three Kingdoms. Another merchant, a woman with a calculating gaze, crosses her arms. I hate to admit it, the monsters are very talented. Who would have thought monsters could create such things? Alex smirks faintly at their conversation, understanding the depth of the change his influence has wrought. He teleports again, this time to Kras City, the site of the kingdom's largest marketplace right now. Unlike the modest market squares of the human cities, Kras is a vast expanse filled with towering stalls and pavilions. Deftly barter, they display intricate trinkets, and big monsters oversee trade routes with surprising efficiency. A human merchant shakes his head, looking at a towering stone structure, a trade hall for auctions. Who built all this? He mutters. I've traveled through all three kingdoms, and I've never seen anything like it. A monster nearby grins toothily. Our king did, the one that create miracles. Welcome to Kras City, human. Finally, Alex teleports to Veristan City, the last stop on his tour. Unlike the bustling activity of the other cities, Veristan has a quieter, more contemplative atmosphere. The streets are less crowded, and many of the monsters here carry tomes, staffs, and enchanted trinkets. At the heart of the city stands the mage academy called Celestia Magisterium, a towering structure that contrasts sharply with the simpler iron-tier buildings that surround it. The academy is a silver rarity blueprint, the most costly. The funds poured into its construction nearly drained the 1,500,000 gold coins. But the result is a building that exudes an aura of arcane knowledge. Crystal orbs glow softly atop spires. Intricate runes are etched into the walls, and enchanted banners ripple in non-existent winds. As Alex approaches, he notices a group of aspiring students. Kobolds, goblins, and even a few trolls practicing basic spells in the open training yard. A pair of academy staff members, created by the blueprint, observe and guide them. Though their knowledge is adequate for teaching beginners, they lack the expertise to instruct higher-level spells. Alex steps inside the academy, where hallways are lined with polished stone and glowing glyphs. Students shuffle between classrooms, clutching spellbooks and muttering incantations under their breath. Despite the academy's grandeur, there's a sense of incompleteness, like a stage set waiting for its main performers. He spots Groth, now the headmaster, near a grand staircase. The old salamander monster stands with his hands clasped behind his back. His scales a muted, weathered green with streaks of gray. Despite his age, Groth's eyes are sharp and observant, following the progress of each student with a mix of patience and discernment. Groth! Alex calls out. Groth turns, his gaze landing on Alex before a smile pulls at the corners of his scaled mouth. Ah, you are here, your majesty, visiting to see how your precious academy fares. Just taking a look, Alex replies, his eyes scanning the bustling halls. How are things here? Groth chuckles, a raspy sound like dry leaves rustling. Ha! It's a fine building, no doubt. The students are eager, the staff reliable, but a fine blade is useless without a proper hand to wield it. Alex nods, understanding. Still lacking teachers? Groth grumbles, his gaze falling to a group of young orcs struggling to conjure a basic fireball. We've had many applicants. Goblins who can barely light a candle, ogres whose idea of magic is smashing a rock with their fists. Tier 1s, most of them, eager but lacking. Any promising ones? Alex inquires. Here and there, Groth admits, his voice thoughtful. A gnoll with a knack for wind magic, a troll who shows surprising finesse with enchantments. But even they are barely tier 2. We need more. Monsters who have truly walked the path of magic, who can guide these students past the basics. Alex watches as a young gnoll finally conjures a small flicker of flame, earning applause from his peers. There is potential here, raw and unrefined. Alex crosses his arms, his gaze steady. Just keep on teaching here, Groth. If we really can't find any suitable teachers, I'll handle it myself. In his mind, he's already considering the possibility of resurrecting mages from the mage tower of his capital city. Even the weakest mage there is level 400, a formidable force compared to the monsters here. However, resurrecting even one of them would demand an enormous amount of gold coins. Still, if it's necessary to ensure the Academy's success, it might be worth it. Groth tilts his head, a thoughtful glint in his aged eyes. Very well, Your Majesty. I'll continue as you wish. Truth be told, teaching these talented young ones is a far more pleasant task than constantly marching onto the battlefield. There's joy in seeing a spark ignite in their eyes when they finally grasp a spell. Alex glances around at the students practicing in the training yard, their faces lit with focus and determination. There's something admirable about Groth's dedication, about the way he's adjusted to this new role. Then keep nurturing them, Groth, Alex says firmly. And if we need more than that, if the time comes when your guidance isn't enough, I'll bring in someone who can fill the gaps. Groth bows his head, a respectful and genuine gesture. I will do as you say, Your Majesty. As Alex turns to leave, Groth calls out, And thank you, Your Majesty, for this academy, for giving us more than just strength. We now have wisdom to pursue. Alex pauses, offering a final nod before stepping away. The sound of incantations and the hum of magic fill the air behind him, a melody of growth and promise. Chapter 113. The war continues. In the grand palace of Ralthian Kingdom, tension hangs thick in the air. The meeting chamber, usually a place of diplomacy and strategy, now feels more like a battlefield. King Edric sits at the head of the long, ornately carved table, his fingers tapping impatiently against the polished wood. His expression is sour, no, furious. Even with the severity of the situation, the rulers of Ordea and Valgros have only sent representatives. He had personally written letters to both kings, expecting their presence, but all he received were envoys. His gaze sharpens as he leans forward, his voice carrying the weight of his frustration. So, did the two of them agree to help me? The representative from Ordea, a middle-aged man in a fine navy blue coat, clears his throat before responding. Yes, Your Highness. His Majesty has agreed to allow you to issue a sovereign's call to arms through the Adventurers Guild, under one condition. He pauses, watching King Edric's expression. For the next 5 years, trade between our kingdoms must be conducted at a 30% discount off market prices. King Edric's fingers tighten into a fist against the table. 30%? His voice is laced with disbelief. That's robbery. You expect me to cripple my own economy just to get help? The Ordea envoy remains composed. It is a generous offer, considering the circumstances. The guild may not fall under the rule of any kingdom, but as you know, each kingdom can only issue a sovereign's call to arms to the Adventurers Guild within their own territory. Ordea is making an exception. His eyes flick toward the Valgros representative, a man clad in dark green, his expression unreadable. And what of your king? What does he demand? The Valgros envoy folds his hands calmly. His Majesty King Rewalt is willing to lend assistance, but only if Ralthian formally cedes the border city of Gilder to Valgros. A heavy silence settles over the room. Edric's fingers tighten against the table's edge. Gilder, a strategically vital city, was already contested territory between their kingdoms. Handing it over would be a devastating loss, but without aid, his kingdom might face an even greater disaster. Edric's mind races, the weight of the decision pressing down on him like an iron shackle. If he refuses, his kingdom may not last another year. The enemy looks like it's about to attack again, and despite his attempts to reach out to the king of the monsters, the responses he receives are always vague, as if they are deliberately stalling him. Finally, he exhales sharply and straightens in his chair. Give me time to consider. His voice is firm, but there's an undeniable edge of weariness. The Ordea representative inclines his head slightly. Of course, Your Highness, but I advise you not to delay for too long. Every passing day tilts the balance further against you. The Valgros envoy remains silent, merely offering a knowing look before standing. We will await your response, King Edric. But understand, our king does not make offers twice. As the two envoys depart, Edric remains seated, his hands clenched into fists. His kingdom's future hinges on choices he never wanted to make. If only that damned monster king would give me a clear answer. Back in the heart of Erevaris, Alex stands in a grand chamber, a dimly lit hall lined with towering obsidian pillars. The air hums with a quiet intensity as he gazes down at Cissari. Her three eyes shimmer with an eerie intelligence, her serpentine body coiling slightly as she awaits his command. Alex speaks, his voice calm yet resolute. Go now and implement our next move. Cissari bows her elongated head, her voice as smooth as silk. As you wish, your majesty. With fluid grace, she turns. Moments later, a sealed message is sent to the Ralphian kingdom, bearing a simple yet devastating declaration. The Erevaris kingdom will only stop if the Ralphian kingdom becomes a subject state. Back in Ralphian, King Edric reads the message in his private chamber. A bitter, humorless laugh escapes his lips. They're not demanding his submission in name alone, they want complete control. They must be so confident in themselves. His fingers crumple the message as his blood boils hotter. His body trembles, not with fear, but with unyielding fury. His eyes burn with a bloodthirsty light. Then, let's fight to the end. His decision is made. He storms back to the meeting chamber, his movements stiff with anger. Without hesitation, he looks to the Ordea and Valgros envoys and growls. I accept your terms. The Ordea envoy nods, his expression one of quiet satisfaction. The Valgros representative merely smirks. Edric does not care. Let them think they've won something. This war will not end with submission. It will end in blood. Back in Erevaris, Alex sits in his war chamber, a massive map of Ralphian spread across the polished stone table before him. The glow of magical lanterns casts sharp shadows across the room. At his side stands General Varkas. Across from them, Cissari glides into the chamber, her three luminous eyes flickering with intrigue. She bows slightly before speaking. Your Majesty, Ralphian has made its choice. They will fight to the end. Alex leans back in his chair, exhaling softly. Expected. His fingers drum against the armrest. And our forces? Varkas steps forward, his deep voice filled with quiet confidence. The army is now 50,000 strong. They are disciplined, well-equipped, and eager for battle. We are ready to move. Alex studies the map in silence, his gaze sharp as he traces the borders of Ralphian. He already anticipated this response. Humans are stubborn and unwilling to bend. Varkas smirks, a glint of anticipation in his eyes. We'll strike swiftly, seize control before their reinforcements arrive. Alex nods. Take what you need. Keep casualties low, but make it clear Ralphian is crumbling. And if their king still refuses to kneel, he pauses, his expression turning colder. We will grind them into dust. Varkas places a fist over his chest in salute. Understood, Your Majesty. With that, he turns and strides out of the chamber, already barking orders to his officers. Days later, the front lines. Smoke rises in thick plumes over the conquered cities. In just a few days, 3 key strongholds of Ralphian have fallen. General Varkas, leading with ruthless efficiency, commands the battlefield like a seasoned predator. The enemy forces, outnumbered and outmatched, fall like leaves before a storm. Yet, just as expected, the reinforcements from Ordea and Valgros arrive. Their banners stretch across the horizon, a tide of warriors rallying to Edric's cause. With their aid, Ralphian finally manages to halt the advance, forcing Erevaris to hold their positions. But no Tier 5 combatants have entered the battlefield yet. The real war is only beginning. Inside a fortified war tent near Ralphian's front lines, 2 figures stand facing each other over a large map spread across an iron table. The air inside is tense, but not with hostility. Rather, a sharp anticipation of the battle ahead. One of them, clad in heavy black armor, rests a massive greatsword against his shoulder. His short, messy blonde hair is damp with sweat, and his green eyes gleam with the thrill of war. This is Pavel, the only adamantite-ranked adventurer in the Ordea Kingdom, a Tier 5 warrior known for his raw power and unbreakable resilience. Across from him, a tall, imposing man clad in a dark green military coat with silver embroidery stands with his arms crossed. His presence alone commands respect. Marshal Zinov, the strongest of Valgro's 3 marshals. His piercing gray eyes are calculating, his every movement precise and efficient. Unlike Pavel's wild energy, Zinov carries himself with an air of absolute control. Pavel lets out a low whistle as he looks Zinov up and down. The Valgro's kingdom is really going all out this time. They even sent you here. Zinov's expression remains unreadable. King Rewalt does not take unnecessary risks. Erevaris is no ordinary foe. He taps a spot on the map, the latest city Erevaris has taken. If we do not act carefully, this war will be over before Ralphian realizes it. Garen grins, cracking his neck. Careful, huh? I prefer direct. Get in, cut down their commanders, break their morale. That usually does the trick. He pats the hilt of his greatsword, a weapon nearly as long as he is tall. Besides, that Tier 5 monster on their side has shown up yet. Maybe he's scared. Zinov's sharp gray eyes narrow as he fixes Pavel with a cold stare. We need to plan and work together if we're going to fight that monster. His voice is steady, but there's an unmistakable edge to it. Don't underestimate the enemy. One of our kingdom's marshals was killed by that thing. Pavel's grin fades slightly, his fingers tightening around the grip of his greatsword. So the rumors were true then? He exhales sharply, shaking his head. Damn. Which one? Marshal Draven. Zinov's tone is flat, but the weight of the words is heavy. He was a seasoned warrior, a Tier 5 who had fought in more battles than most men could count. And yet he died. A moment of silence lingers between them. Pavel's usual cocky energy dims, replaced by something more serious. How did it happen? Zinov glances at the map, his fingers tapping lightly on the edge of the table. We still don't have a clear account. The scouts only said one thing. It wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. The enemy didn't even take Draven seriously. His eyes flicker with something rare caution. And that's just one enemy. We don't even know if Erevaris has other Tier 5 monsters waiting in the shadows. Chapter 114. Nasara, Thurn, and Vertha become Tier 4. On the outskirts of the contested city, a massive force stands ready. 50,000 monstrous soldiers, their forms casting eerie shadows under the dim sky, await the order to strike. They are led by 4 figures, Sorin, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha, each commanding specialized units tailored to their strengths. Nasara, now a Tier 4 commander, stands at the front of her division. Clad in dark, heavy armor, her presence is as unshakable as the creatures behind her. Monsters bred for defense, their hulking forms resembling living fortresses. Their thick hides gleam under the faint light, shields and natural armor braced for the impending clash. Beside her, Veltha also got promoted to a commander, also a Tier 4, the wind rustling through her long silver hair. Her command consists of fast-moving monsters, agile and relentless, their sleek bodies built for rapid strikes and precise destruction. The air around them is filled with anticipation, the beasts shifting restlessly as if eager to be unleashed. Thurn, the same as the two, got promoted and breakthrough to Tier 4. His eyes glinting with cold amusement, stands among his forces, monsters steeped in poison, their very existence a walking plague. Venom drips from fangs and claws, and the scent of toxicity lingers in the air. The battlefield ahead is not just a place of war. It will be a breeding ground for death. Sorin surveys the city ahead with an expression of quiet intensity. Unlike the others, her authority is not defined by a specific combat style but by her unwavering command over the entire force. The city walls loom in the distance, filled with defenders, 50,000 strong. a mix of Ralthian's battered army and the newly arrived reinforcements from Ordea and Valgros. She speaks, her voice calm but firm. Although most of them are adventurers, we shouldn't underestimate them. After all, they're from Ordea. Nasara nods, arms crossed over her plated chest. Ordea adventurers are tough, that's what the rumors said. But they're not invincible. We just have to break them properly. Veltha tilts her head toward Soren. What's the plan? Soren looks over the battlefield, taking in the terrain, the defenses, and the formation of the enemy. We split the attack into 3 waves. Nasara, your forces will take the lead. Your job isn't to break through immediately. It's to absorb their attacks, hold the line, and wear them down. Nasara smirks. Leave it to me. Soren continues, eyes flickering toward Veltha. Once they're engaged, you and your monsters strike next. Speed is your greatest advantage. Don't give them time to reorganize. Hit them hard and fast. Veltha's eyes gleam. Sounds fun. Finally, Soren shifts her gaze to Thurn. You will follow last. By then, their formation should be weakened. That's when you strike. Flood their ranks with poison. Make sure their healers are overwhelmed. Thurn nods, a slow, knowing smile creeping across his face. They'll be too busy gasping for air to put up much of a fight. Soren exhales, her gaze lingering on the enemy city. This battle won't be easy, but if we execute this right, we'll be able to conquer this city. The air is thick with tension. 50,000 monstrous warriors stand ready. Their breaths heavy, their claws, fangs, and weapons poised for war. Across the battlefield, the city's defenders tighten their grips on their weapons, their banners fluttering violently in the wind. The clash is inevitable. Soren raises her arm, and a deafening silence falls over the monster army. Then, with a single motion, she brings it down. A monstrous roar erupts as Nasara's vanguard surges forward. The ground trembles as towering, heavily armored monsters charge across the battlefield. Their sheer size and unyielding defenses make them living battering rams. Shields lock together, forming an unstoppable wall of steel and flesh. From the city walls, a storm of arrows and spells rains down. Fiery projectiles streak through the air, crashing into the advancing horde. Explosions tear through the earth, sending dust and shattered stone flying. Some monsters fall, their bodies consumed by fire or pierced by enchanted bolts, but the line does not break. Nasara, leading from the front, lifts her massive shield, deflecting a barrage of incoming projectiles. A blast of fire slams into her, but she emerges unscathed, her armor glowing red-hot before cooling almost instantly. Hold the line, she roars. Advance. A hail of arrows pelts her shield, but she pushes forward, her troops following in perfect formation. The city gates loom closer. Then, with a thunderous crash, the first impact occurs. Ralthian's front line meets Nasara's forces head-on. The clash of metal against flesh is deafening. Warriors are sent flying as the monsters smash into them like a tidal wave. Shields splinter, weapons break, and the defenders struggle to hold their ground. From the rear, a group of adventurers steps forward. One of them, a hulking man wielding a massive warhammer, slams it into the ground. A shockwave ripples outward, toppling several monsters. Another adventurer on top of the walls, a mage clad in blue robes, raises a hand, summoning jagged ice spears that pierce through the first row of charging creatures. Nasara watches as several of her monsters collapse, frozen solid or crushed beneath the hammer's force. She exhales slowly, rolling her shoulders before striding forward, her heavy armor gleaming in the chaos of battle. Then her gaze locks onto the warhammer-wielding adventurer. A grin tugs at the corner of her lips. Oh, a strong one. The man, an ironclad warrior, meets her gaze. His grip tightens on the warhammer, its runes pulsing with a deep, molten glow. You must be one of their commanders, he says, his voice steady despite the carnage around them. Nasara chuckles. Yeah, I'm the commander. She plants her feet firmly into the ground, her 6 crimson eyes locking onto him. Her armor, a deep obsidian black with veins of shimmering silver, gleams under the fiery glow of battle. Her fingers flex over the hilt of her weapon. A massive great shield, its surface jagged like the carapace of a monstrous beast. The adventurer exhales sharply, shifting his stance.
Namaskar.
He hefts his warhammer onto his shoulder, his muscles tensing. And if you're leading this charge, that means I get to crush you first. Chapter 115. Assassin vs. Mage. Nasara tilts her head, an amused gleam in her eyes. Talk big while you can, human. Let's see if you can back it up. Then she moves. The ground cracks beneath her as she lunges forward, her great shield raised like a battering ram. Gar barely has time to brace before she slams into him. The impact is like a cataclysmic quake. Dust and debris explode outward as his feet dig into the dirt, his body sliding back several meters despite his immense strength. The force nearly buckles his arms, but he grits his teeth and retaliates. With a roar, he swings his warhammer in a wide arc. The runes on its surface flare, sending out a burst of concussive force. Nasara reacts instantly. Her lower limbs, thick, armored arachnid legs, dig into the ground, anchoring her as she raises her shield to absorb the blow. The hammer crashes against it with a deafening boom, sending shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. She slides back, but she doesn't falter. She grins. Not bad. Gar narrows his eyes. You too, monster. Before he can recover, she retaliates. With terrifying speed, she swings her shield like a battering weapon. He ducks just in time, but the sheer force of the air pressure alone sends nearby soldiers flying. She doesn't stop there. Her armored legs burst into motion, weaving an unpredictable pattern as she circles him, striking with a combination of her shield and razor-sharp clawed gauntlets. Gar blocks, parries, and evades, his warhammer moving like a whirlwind, but Nasara is relentless. Their fight becomes a furious exchange of power, each blow shaking the battlefield. Meanwhile, the battle rages around them. Veltha's fast-moving monsters dart through the chaos, striking at weak points, cutting down mages and archers before vanishing into the fray. Thurn's forces wait like vipers, watching for the perfect moment to release their venomous terror upon the battlefield. The adventurers fight with desperate ferocity. Blades clash, spells explode, and the air is filled with the roars of monsters and the screams of dying soldiers. Back in the duel, Gar sees an opening. He channels raw power into his warhammer and swings upward, aiming for Nasara's exposed side. For a moment, it seems like he's going to land a decisive blow. But then, his weapon stops. Nasara's armored hand grips the shaft of his warhammer, stopping it inches from her body. Her grip tightens, and with a single heave, she lifts Garen clean off the ground. His eyes widen. What? Before he can react, she twists and slams him into the earth with monstrous strength. The ground shatters beneath him, a crater forming from the sheer force of impact. Dust billows. The battlefield momentarily pauses as soldiers and monsters alike glance toward the site of destruction. Nasara stands over him, her expression calm. She watches as Garen coughs, struggling to push himself up, his warhammer lying a few feet away. She exhales. That was a good fight. While 3 dominates the battlefield below, Soren is already where she thrives. Above the chaos, in the shadows. Soren moves with a stealth skill on across the city walls, her twin daggers slick with fresh blood. The sun casts long shadows over the stone parapets, but she remains unseen, a ghost amid the chaos. The defenders on the walls had been a serious problem, archers and mages raining death down on the battlefield, thinning their forces. That was before she got here. Now, a lifeless body slumps against the battlements. Another collapses before he can even turn. One after another, archers and spellcasters fall, their deaths quick and quiet. Some never even realize their throats have been slit before darkness takes them. Soren exhales, standing over a pile of corpses. The city below still fights fiercely, but here, the resistance is fading. Almost done. Her crimson eyes flick toward her real target, the lever that controls the city gate. If she can reach it, the entire battle shifts. Then, A sharp crack splits the air. Magic flares. Soren leaps back just in time as a pillar of ice erupts where she stood, shards of frost tearing through the stone. A powerful chill fills the air, and she spins toward the source. A lone figure stands between her and the gate controls. A Tier 4 mage. He's older, dressed in ornate blue robes, his beard streaked with white. A heavy staff rests in his grip, glowing with an eerie frost blue light. His eyes lock onto Soren, sharp with awareness. "So you're the rat that's been creeping around my walls." His voice is steady, but there's a dangerous weight to it. Soren tilts her head, sizing him up. "Yeah, I am. And I almost kill everyone here without you noticing," she said in a mocking voice. The mage smirks, tapping his staff against the stone. A thin layer of frost spreads outward, cracking the surface of the wall beneath them. "You're fast. I'll give you that," he says. "But stealth won't save you now." Soren flips a dagger between her fingers, her stance relaxed. "You sure?" She moves. A flicker of motion. 1 second she's in front of him, the next she's at his side, daggers flashing toward his ribs. But the mage is no amateur. A burst of icy wind explodes from his staff. Soren is forced to retreat as the cold cuts through the air, sharp as blades. She flips backward, landing lightly, but the frost clings to her cloak, spreading unnaturally fast. She rips it off just as it stiffens, turning brittle and shattering like glass. The mage chuckles. "Clever. But you won't evade forever." Soren doesn't respond. She's already moving. She activates Shadow Step, a Tier 2 skill. Her body flickers, phasing through the thin layer of ice beneath her, reappearing behind him in an instant. Her dagger plunges toward his spine. Ice barrier. A dome of thick frost erupts around the mage, blocking the strike. The impact sends cracks through the ice, but it holds. Soren tisks, retreating as the barrier shatters outward in jagged shards, forcing her to dodge. "You rely too much on tricks," the mage says, raising his staff. "Try facing magic head-on." Chapter 116, The Black Knight, Cain. A pulse of mana surges from his body. He slams the staff against the ground, casting Frozen Domain, a Tier 3 skill. The temperature drops instantly. The air crystallizes, and the stone beneath their feet turns slick with ice. Soren moves to shift her weight, but her footing betrays her. Her boots skid against the frozen surface. The mage smiles. "Slowed already?" Soren exhales. She expected this. A lesser assassin might struggle here, but she isn't just any assassin. She activates Phantom Step, a Tier 3 buff skill. Her entire body becomes weightless, her movements unhindered by terrain. She dashes forward as if skating across the ice, closing the gap in a heartbeat. Her daggers gleam. Dagger art, Phantom Strikes, a Tier 3 skill. A flurry of attacks follows, too fast for the eye to track. She slashes at every vital point: throat, wrists, heart, lungs. But Frost Warden's Aegis, a Tier 3 defensive spell. An intricate layer of ice armor coats the mage's robes, absorbing the damage. The daggers cut into him, but only shallow wounds appear. Then he counters. A surge of magic erupts from his staff. Glacial chains. Ice shoots from the ground, forming thick chains that snap toward Soren. She twists, evading two, but a third catches her ankle, freezing on contact. The mage grins. "Caught you." Soren smirks. "Not quite." She vanishes. A shadow flickers across the battlefield. She reappears 10 meters away, completely free. Veil of Night, a Tier 4 skill. The mage's smirk fades. Tier 4. She also activates Death Requiem, her Tier 4 dagger skill. A shadowy mist erupts from her blades, swirling like a living entity. It coils around the mage, wrapping him in a suffocating embrace. The mist seeps into his skin, spreading a deathly chill through his veins. His face twists in pain as his mana flickers erratically, his body rejecting his own magic. What is this?" he gasps, stumbling back. Soren steps forward, her eyes glowing faintly under the mist's eerie presence. A requiem, your last one. She flicks her wrist, sending the mist tightening around him. He screams as his body convulses, his movements sluggish, his magic faltering. But she's not done. With fluid precision, she activates her second Tier 4 skill. Silent End. Her presence vanishes. No sound.
No killing intent.
The mage's panicked eyes dart around. He can't sense her, can't even tell where the next attack will come from. Then, a dagger pierces through his ribs from behind. His body jerks, blood splattering against the frost-covered stone. He gasps, trying to turn, but another dagger buries itself in his throat. Soren leans in, whispering in his ear. You should have been sure. With a final twist of the blade, she ends him. The mage collapses. Soren watches his body hit the ice, then exhales. The gate lever is unguarded now. But just as she steps forward, she senses something. Presence. Strong. She turns her head, and standing at the other end of the wall who just arrived is a towering figure clad in heavy obsidian armor, a massive sword resting on his shoulder. Unlike the mage, this one radiates pure, unshaken confidence. A level 486 Tier 4 knight. His name is Kane Vorten, a legend among human soldiers. Soren can tell immediately, this isn't an opponent she can defeat alone. The gap between them is overwhelming. Even with her Tier 4 skills, even with all her tricks, she knows, she will die if she fights him alone. But she doesn't let her expression betray that realization. Instead, she tilts her head, a smirk playing on her lips. You're late. I've already killed everyone here. Kane steps forward, the stone beneath his feet cracking under his weight. His deep, gravelly voice carries easily across the wall. And now you die for it. His sword hums with power, dark energy rippling along its length. This isn't just a weapon. It's enchanted, reinforced by countless battles. Soren doesn't hesitate. With a subtle hand movement, she activates her communication sigil, sending a silent signal to Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha. They'll understand. They need to get here. Now, Kane moves. In an instant, he vanishes from sight. His sheer speed unnatural for someone in such heavy armor. Shit. Soren barely reacts in time, twisting away as his blade cleaves through the air where she stood. The force of the swing alone sends a powerful shockwave across the wall, shattering stone and sending debris flying. She flips back, landing lightly, but Kane doesn't give her space. He's already in front of her, his gauntlet-covered fist swinging toward her head. Soren ducks, just barely. The air pressure from the punch alone whips past her, a terrifying reminder of just how deadly a direct hit would be. She retaliates. Dagger art, phantom strikes. Her daggers blur as she slashes at his exposed joints. Elbows, neck, underarms. Precise, ruthless, lethal. But, clang. Her daggers barely scratch his armor. Kane doesn't even flinch. His sword whips around, faster than she can react. Boom! Soren throws herself backward, but the sheer force blasts her off her feet. She barely twists midair, landing in a crouch, but her daggers tremble in her grip. Her arms feel numb. Kane watches her, expression unreadable. Then he exhales, rolling his neck. Humph. Fast. But not enough. Soren's mind races. She's outmatched. She needs to stall, needs to buy time. She lets out a slow breath, forcing a cocky grin. You talk a lot for someone who's failed to kill me already. Then he moves again. Too fast. His blade comes down like a judgment from the heavens. A single, devastating strike that could end her right now. But, before the blade lands, a deafening crash shakes the wall. A massive, armored limb slams into Kane's sword, deflecting it mid-strike. The sheer force splits the battlements, sending chunks of stone crashing to the streets below. Kane slides back, his boots digging into the cracked stone. A low, chittering laugh follows. Nasara has arrived. She stands beside Soren, her massive arachnid form towering over the battlefield. Her great shield, The one that just blocked Kane's attack glows with layered enchantments. She grins, her fangs glinting. You looked like you needed help, Soren. Soren exhales. Took you long enough. Thurn and Veltha appear moments later. Thurn steps onto the wall with slow, deliberate confidence, his chitin-covered arms flexing as his 8 arachnid legs settle against the cracked stone. His entire body exudes poison, the air around him growing thick with a faint violet mist. Veltha slithers beside him, her scaled tail coiling around a fallen pillar as her forked tongue flicks out. The markings along her body glow with a dull golden hue, her bloodline's power awakening. Her clawed fingers twitch, dark magic swirling around them, pulsing with venom. She flicks her daggers. All right then, let's kill this bastard. Kane stands across from them, silent. Then he smirks. Come then, show me what you're worth. The battle begins. Kane moves first. A single step. Boom! The sheer force shatters the stone beneath him as he lunges straight for Soren. But this time she's not alone. A figure intercepts him, Nasara. Her foldable sword-like limbs extend, their razor-sharp edges gleaming as she slashes mid-air, meeting Kane's blade head-on. The impact sends a shockwave through the wall, cracks spiderwebbing across the battlefield. Kane grunts, his stance shifting to absorb the blow. Before Kane can counter, Thurn moves. With an inhuman burst of speed, he lunges from the side, his chitin-covered arms shifting unnaturally. His fingers extend into needle-like claws, glistening with a thick, viscous venom. Tier 4 bloodline skill. Venomous erosion. A single scratch, just one, would be enough to melt through steel and flesh alike. The air around his claws hisses as the poison reacts with the stone beneath them, corroding it instantly. Kane doesn't underestimate him. His obsidian blade shifts, redirecting Nasara's attack with a powerful twist before swinging backward to intercept Thurn's claws. Clang. Sparks erupt as metal meets chitin. Thurn grits his fangs, feeling the force reverberate through his limbs. But he doesn't retreat. Instead, Tier 4 skill. Abyssal Toxin. A pulse of dark energy spreads from Thurn's body, the thick purple mist around him turning nearly black. It sinks into the cracks of the stone, seeping into the air. Kane exhales sharply, his armor's enchantments activating, resisting the creeping effect. But the momentary distraction is all Veltha needs. Tier 4A bloodline skill. Serpent's fangs. Her fingertips elongate, forming dagger-like claws that glisten with concentrated venom. They bypass armor, sinking into the gaps between plates, delivering a poison that attacks both body and mana. Kane moves. With precise control, he shifts his weight, raising his gauntlet to block her strike. The poison eats into the metal, sizzling upon contact. A devastating punch slams into Veltha's torso, sending her flying backward. She crashes against the battlements, coughing, but her body twists midair, regaining balance. The glow in her scales intensifies. She grins, wiping blood from her lip. Kane rolls his shoulders, his smirk fading slightly as he takes a steady breath. His armor is corroded in spots, faint traces of poison eating away at the enchanted metal. Inside, he's shocked. 2 of them have already used 2 Tier 4 skills? He clenches his grip on his sword, suppressing the unease creeping into his mind. He, a knight of the strongest kingdom, only possesses 1 Tier 4 skill. And yet, these monsters, these creatures, are wielding power that surpasses expectations. He exhales, no holding back. A surge of mana erupts from his body as he activates every Tier 3 buff skill in his arsenal. Champion's Valor. Knight's Resolve. Blood of the Tyrant. His muscles tighten, his speed sharpens, and his sword pulses with newfound strength. The air around him distorts, the sheer pressure of his presence now overwhelming. Nasara narrows her eyes. Here we go. Kane moves. This time he's faster, much faster. With a single burst, he closes the distance between him and Thurn in the blink of an eye. Thurn barely raises his arms before. Boom! Kane's sword slams into him with monstrous force, sending him flying through the battlements. Stone shatters, dust explodes into the air, and a massive crater forms where Thurn lands. Thurn, Veltha hisses. Chapter 117, Kane's Death. She and Nosara react instantly. Nosara's limbs carve through the air like lightning, while Veltha's tail whips toward Kane with enough force to split a huge tree in half. Kane doesn't dodge. He counters. His blade twists, meeting Nosara's strike head-on. The moment their weapons collide, he rotates his wrist, parrying the attack at an angle that forces Nosara off balance. Veltha's tail is next. Kane pivots on his heel, ducking low as the massive tail swings past his head. Before Veltha can recover, he drives his gauntlet-covered fist into her abdomen. Crack. Veltha chokes as she's sent hurtling backward. But before Kane can capitalize, a shadow flickers. Soren. Her dagger is already at his neck. Shying. Kane tilts his head at the last second, avoiding a fatal strike, but the tip of the dagger grazes his cheek, drawing blood. Soren vanishes again. TCH. Kane wipes the blood away, his expression still composed. Then he senses it. A presence above him. He looks up. Nosara is mid-air, her two massive sword limbs glowing with a dark crimson light. Tier 4 skill. Blade Queen's Wrath. With a fierce battle cry, she brings both weapons down, the force behind them enough to carve through a fortress. Kane's instincts scream. He raises his blade. Clang. The impact is monstrous. The entire wall quakes as Kane is forced to his knees for the first time. His sword, powerful as it is, trembles against the raw force of Nosara's attack. But Nosara isn't done. From the ground, Thurn rises, his body pulsing with violet energy. His carapace is cracked, his face twisted in fury. A dark aura surges around him. Tier 4 skill. Abyssal Toxin, second release. The poison in the air thickens, solidifying into black tendrils that wrap around Kane's limbs, attempting to immobilize him. At the same time, Veltha moves in, her claws glowing with venom, ready to strike. Soren reappears behind him, both daggers aimed at the gaps in his armor. For enemies, 3 different angles, all striking at once. For the first time since the battle began, Kane is overwhelmed, but he does not falter. Instead, his lips curl into a smirk. Enough! Mana surges around him, the air vibrating with an ominous pressure. The sheer force of it sends ripples through the battlefield, forcing Nosara, Thurn, Veltha, and Soren to instinctively brace themselves. Then, Tier 4 skill. Tyrant's Dominion. Boom! A shockwave erupts from Kane's body, blasting outward like an unstoppable force. The black tendrils of Thurn's abyssal toxin disintegrate instantly, as if burned away by sheer will. The battlements beneath his feet crack and explode outward, sending debris flying in all directions. Nosara's eyes widen. Move! Too late. The wave of force slams into all 4 of them. Nosara is thrown backward, her massive frame crashing through a section of the wall. The impact sends stone and ice cascading down into the battlefield below. Thurn's body twists violently midair before he's launched straight into a ruined watchtower. The structure crumbles on impact, swallowing him in a cloud of dust and debris. Veltha tries to coil her tail around a broken pillar to stabilize herself, but the force is too strong. She's hurled like a whip, her body skidding across the cracked stone before slamming into an iron gate. A gasp escapes her lips as she coughs blood, her golden scales now marred with cracks. Soren vanishes at the last moment, trying to escape the blast with her speed. But Kane is already there. He anticipates her movement, shifting his stance and striking with terrifying precision. His sword flashes through the air, catching Soren mid-step. A thin line of blood splashes against the cold stone. Soren gasps as a deep gash opens across her side. She stumbles, her knees nearly giving out from the sudden pain. She tries to fade back into the shadows, but her body refuses to respond. With her blood, monster, this is the end. Soren grits her teeth, forcing herself to stand. Despite the burning pain, she smirks. You sure about that? Cain narrows his eyes, about to strike again, but a screeching sound fills the air. Nisara emerges from the rubble, her crimson eyes burning with fury. Her sword limbs unfold with a sharp metallic shining, the edges glowing with renewed energy. That hurt, she growls. Veltha, despite her injuries, pushes herself up. Her tail coils, steadying her stance. TCH, you really are a monster, huh? From the ruins of the watchtower, the rubble shifts. Then, Thurn rises, his body wreathed in an even darker mist. His carapace, cracked from the impact, leaks a sickly violet venom. His mandibles click together as his voice rumbles. He bleeds, Thurn says, his glowing eyes locking onto Cain's still bleeding cheek. That means he can die. Soren wipes the blood from her mouth and chuckles. Agreed. The four of them exchange glances. Injured but alive. Outmatched but not beaten. The four of them exchange glances. Injured but alive. Outmatched but not beaten. Cain exhales, rolling his shoulders. Still standing? Good. He plants his sword into the ground for a moment, his mana still surging around him like an untamed storm. Then let's finish this. Cain's eyes narrow as he surveys his opponents. Despite their injuries, the four adversaries stand resolute, their determination unwavering. Each combatant poised for the next move. This time, their attacks are seamless. Nisara, Thurn, Veltha, and Soren move in perfect sync, like predators circling wounded prey. There is no hesitation, no wasted movement. Each attack flows into the next, creating a relentless onslaught that even Cain struggles to counter. Cain blocks a downward slash from Nisara's sword limbs, but before he can counter, Veltha strikes from his blind spot. Her venom-coated claws rake against his armor, leaving behind sizzling marks. He pivots, raising his sword to slash at her. But Thurn is already there. His chitin-covered arm slams into Cain's gauntlet, redirecting the strike just enough to throw off its momentum. Cain grits his teeth, twisting his body, but Soren appears behind him, her daggers flashing toward his exposed neck. Chapter 118. Nobles Getting Executed. Clang. Cain barely raises his shoulder blade in time, deflecting the lethal blow, but the dagger still cuts into his flesh, drawing more blood. His breathing grows heavier. They're getting faster. They're adapting. And worse, his body feels heavy. The poison, Thurn's and Veltha's venom, subtle at first, is beginning to take its toll. His muscles burn with each movement. His sword, once an extension of his will, now feels just a fraction slower. His breathing turns ragged as sweat drips down his face. Damn it. He knows. If this fight drags on, he will die. I won't die here. With a roar, Cain channels the last of his strength and activates every Tier 2 buff skill he has left. Indomitable Night increases physical endurance beyond mortal limits. Blade Mastery, Limit Break, enhances reflexes, speed, and precision for a short duration. Warrior's Wrath converts pain into strength. A wave of raw power explodes from his body. The poison still lingers, but his will overrides it, for now. For a moment. Then they use their final Tier 4 skills. Nisara's Execution. Her sword limbs extend unnaturally, striking from angles impossible to predict. Thurn's Venomous Abyss. His body releases a concentrated miasma that seeps into wounds, accelerating the poison's effects tenfold. Veltha's Serpent's Last Embrace. She coils around Cain, her tail locking his movements while venom courses through her fangs, ready to deliver a finishing bite. Cain fights like a demon, breaking free from Veltha's coils, deflecting Nisara's strikes, and even punching through Thurn's poisonous mist. But his movements slow, his vision blurs, his breathing turns shallow. Then, a dagger pierces his heart. Soren stands behind him, her eyes locked onto his fading strength. The blade is deep, too deep. For the first time, Cain's sword slips from his grasp. The great knight stumbles forward, his armor stained with blood, his strength finally leaving him. Kane's vision dims, the world around him fading into a blur. He collapses to his knees, the weight of his injuries and the poison coursing through his veins too much to bear. Soren withdraws her dagger, her breath heavy but her eyes triumphant. "It's over," she declares, wiping Kane's blood from her blade. Nasara approaches, her massive form casting a shadow over the fallen knight. "He fought valiantly," she admits, her tone a mix of respect and relief. "But even the strongest have their limits." Veltha, still clutching her wounded side, nods. "If he had possessed even one more Tier 4 skill, we might not have survived this battle," she muses, acknowledging the narrow margin of their victory. Thurn, his carapace cracked and leaking venom, steps forward. "We need to open the gate and seize control of this city." The four warriors, battered but resolute, share a glance. Their ordeal has been grueling, but their objective remains clear. Soren sheathes her daggers, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Let's move," she urges. Together, they turn towards the massive iron gate that stands between them and their conquest. Soren grips the cold iron lever, her breath steadying as she pulls it down. The ancient mechanisms groan in protest, but the massive gate begins to creak open. "Finally," Nasara mutters, wiping blood from her brow. "The city is ours." As the gate yawns open, their forces surge forward, a tide of warriors flooding the streets. The defenders, caught off guard, scramble to form ranks but are swiftly overwhelmed. "Press on," Soren shouts, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Show no mercy." Nasara's sword limbs flash as she leads the charge, cutting down any who stand in their way. Veltha's tail lashes out, crushing shields and bones alike. Zinnov reads the report in his message, his brow furrowing deeply. The news of their defeat with their first clash with the monsters is unexpected, especially considering that the four commanders of the monsters have just reached Tier 4, and Kane is known for his exceptional strength even among other Tier 4 combatants. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, Zinnov immediately issues orders to his subordinates. "Summon all division leaders to the command tent at once," he commands, his voice steady but urgent. "Yes, Marshal," a young officer responds, hurrying out to relay the order. In the heart of the Erevaris kingdom, within the dimly lit confines of his training chamber, Alex stands amidst an array of ancient weapons and mystical artifacts. His muscles ripple under the strain as he executes a series of precise maneuvers, sweat glistening on his brow. A soft chime interrupts his focus, a notification from the system. Pausing, Alex wipes his brow and summons the system interface. The message displays, "Treasury has received 500,000 gold coins." A satisfied smile tugs at the corner of his lips. The integration of the system inventory with the kingdom's treasury, overseen by Minister of Finance Lyric, has proven advantageous. In the grand hall of the royal palace, King Edric paces furiously, his footsteps echoing off the stone walls. The recent reports of the 5 monster commanders dividing their forces to attack multiple towns, drawing ever closer to the capital, have frayed his nerves. How could this happen? Does the 2 kingdoms help too useless? Edric's voice booms, his face flushed with anger. Sir Alden, the king's trusted advisor, stands nearby, his expression a mix of concern and caution. "Your Majesty, our forces are stretched thin. The enemy's strategy is cunning. Dividing their troops has made it challenging to mount an effective defense." Edric slams his fist onto the armrest of his throne. "And what of the nobles? Those who sided with Duke Finn? Their actions led to us being unable to reclaim Mizorn. Had they not acted, we might not be in this dire position." Alden hesitates before responding. "Sire, while some nobles were indeed complacent, not all were complicit. We must exercise caution in our judgments." But Edric's patience has worn thin. "Enough! I will not tolerate betrayal, whether by action or inaction. Those who failed the kingdom will face justice." Within days, several nobles are arrested and executed on Edric's orders, their alleged crimes tied to their association with Duke Finn. Chapter 119. The Waiting Trap, Part 1. The swift and severe punishments send shockwaves through the aristocracy. In a dimly lit chamber, a group of nobles gathers, their faces etched with worry. "This is madness," a lord mutters, his voice trembling. "The king executes our peers without proper evidence. Who among us is safe?" A lady noble nods in agreement. "We must act. If we remain silent, we risk our lives and the very fabric of our nobility." Another lord, older and with a stern demeanor, raises a hand. "We cannot openly oppose the king, but we must make our grievances known. A delegation to plead for reason, perhaps." The nobles murmur in agreement, understanding the delicate balance they must maintain. Back in the palace, Alden approaches Edric cautiously. "Your Majesty," unrest grows among the nobility. They feel threatened by the recent executions. Edric's eyes narrow. Let them feel threatened. Perhaps then they'll remember their duty to the crown. Alden bows his head, concern evident. "I fear pushing them too hard may lead to rebellion, sire. We need unity now more than ever." Edric sighs, the weight of leadership bearing down on him. "What would you have me do? Sit idly by while traitors undermine our kingdom?" "No, your Majesty," Alden replies gently. "But discernment is key. Justice must be tempered with wisdom." Edric falls silent, contemplating his advisor's words, as the kingdom teeters on the brink of internal strife amidst external threats. In the command tent, Marshal Zinev sits at the head of a large wooden table, his fingers massaging his temples as he reviews the latest reports. Across from him, Pavel leans forward, his eyes scanning the same documents. Zinev exhales sharply, placing the papers down. "These Ralphian soldiers are barely more than farmers with spears," he mutters. "If I had my troops, it would be a different story." Pavel nods, his brow furrowed. "Agreed. Their lack of discipline is evident. But dwelling on what we lack won't change our situation." Pavel leans back slightly, choosing his words carefully. "Marshal, how about this? Instead of passively waiting, we should take the initiative. Let's attack them separately. By doing so, we can exploit their lack of coordination and possibly determine if they have more Tier 5 combatants among them." Zinev's eyes narrow as he considers the suggestion. "You're suggesting we engage in detail, defeating isolated enemy units before they can consolidate their strength?"
Pavel nods.
"Exactly. By targeting their fragmented units, we can reduce their numbers and gather intelligence on their capabilities." Zinev taps his fingers on the table, deep in thought. "It's a risky move. Our own forces are not at their peak." Pavel leans forward, his voice steady. "True, but waiting will only allow them to strengthen. Taking the offensive might disrupt their plans and give us the upper hand." After a long pause, Zinev exhales and nods. "Very well. Prepare the orders. We'll strike their isolated units at dawn." Pavel's lips curve into a slight smile. "Good. I'll lead the adventurers, you lead the soldiers. I'll target Kras City. I've heard it's become a bustling marketplace. The adventurers will be more than happy to join me." Zinev raises an eyebrow. "Kras City is a strategic location. If we can secure it, we'll disrupt their supply lines."
Pavel nods.
"Exactly. As the strongest adventurer in Ordea Kingdom, I have enough reputation to lead the stubborn adventurers. They'll follow me into battle." Zinev thought, "Pavel is not a soldier, so I can't order him around. Even though I'm stronger, we're both still Tier 5. Zinev leans back, studying Pavel. "Okay, I trust your judgment." The bustling marketplace of Kras City moves as usual, unaware of the storm about to descend upon it. Merchants haggle over prices, carts creak under the weight of goods, and the scent of freshly baked bread mingles with the metallic tang of sharpened steel from the local blacksmith. But beyond the city walls, a different kind of business is unfolding. Pavel and the adventurers, hardened warriors from different field, have taken positions around the outskirts, waiting for the right moment to strike. Hidden in alleys, on rooftops, and within the tree line, they hold their breath, ready for the command. Unbeknownst to them, Varkas already knows they're coming. Thanks to the shadows, the monster army is prepared. Sorin, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha stand at the ready with 50,000 disciplined soldiers, concealed along both flanks of the city. They wait, poised like coiled vipers, allowing the adventurers to step further into their trap before the jaws snap shut. Sorin crouches in the shadows, her daggers glinting faintly in the dim light. Her eyes remain locked on the rooftops, watching the movements of the adventurers. "They're moving in as expected," she whispers. Nasara, standing nearby, flexes her elongated sword limbs. "Good. Let them come. When they commit to the attack, we'll strike from both sides." Thurn tilts his head, his voice calm but laced with malice. "And if they try to retreat?" Veltha coils her serpentine lower half, her fangs glistening with venom. "Then they die tired. They wait. Then a figure rises into the sky, floating above the city like an omen of destruction. Zinov, his presence commanding and ominous. Channeling his energy, he unleashes a Tier 4 skill, a massive torrent of fire that engulfs the city's outer defenses. The sudden explosion sends shockwaves through Kras City. Pavel raises his great sword, rallying his comrades. "Now! For Ordea!" With a unified roar, the adventurers charge, breaching the city's perimeter amidst the chaos. At that moment, Varkas gives the signal. From the shadows, the monster forces surge forward, encircling the unsuspecting adventurers. Sorin leads her unit with lethal precision, targeting the rear guard. Nasara's soldiers clash head-on, their brute strength halting the adventurers' momentum. Thurn's contingent rains venomous arrows from elevated positions, sowing further confusion. Veltha's forces strike from the flanks, cutting off any chance of retreat. Pavel, realizing the trap, bellows, "Hold the line! Don't let them divide us!" But the ambush is expertly executed, exploiting the adventurers' fragmented formation and lack of cohesive strategy. Chapter 120. The Waiting Trap, Part 2. Despite their valor, the adventurers find themselves overwhelmed, their assault on Kras City turning into a desperate fight for survival. Above, Pavel watches the unfolding chaos, his expression unreadable. Amidst the turmoil, Varkas steps forward, his eyes locked onto Zinov. With a deep growl, his form begins to shift. Muscles bulge, bones crack, and dark fur sprouts across his body. In moments, he stands transformed, a towering lycanthrope, embodying both human intellect and wolf ferocity. Pavel, observing from the ground, lets out a hearty laugh, gripping his massive greatsword with anticipation. "So you're all here," Pavel calls out, his voice echoing over the battlefield. "That means no one is stopping Zinov." Varkas's lupin eyes narrow as he responds, his voice a guttural snarl. "You think I'm the only Tier 5? There are others who will handle Zinov. But you," he points a clawed finger at Pavel, "will find your grave here." Without further warning, Varkas lunges at Pavel with blinding speed, his claws aiming for Pavel's throat. Pavel raises his greatsword just in time, the clash of steel against claw ringing out. The force of the impact sends shockwaves through the ground, causing nearby combatants to stumble. Pavel grins, pushing back against Varkas's strength. Finally, Pavel says, his green eyes gleaming with excitement. A real challenge. He pivots, using his momentum to swing the greatsword in a wide arc aimed at Varkas's midsection. Varkas leaps back, narrowly avoiding the blade, and retaliates with a swift kick to Pavel's chest. Pavel skids backward but remains upright, his armor absorbing most of the blow. The two warriors circle each other, the battlefield around them a blur of clashing forces. Varkas's lycanthropic senses allow him to anticipate Pavel's moves, while Pavel's combat experience and raw power make him a formidable opponent. Pavel feints to the left before darting right, aiming to flank Varkas. Varkas, anticipating the move, spins and brings his greatsword down with immense force. Pavel crosses his arms, blocking the strike but dropping to one knee under the pressure. Pavel, still kneeling from the force of Varkas's strike, tightens his grip on his great sword and smirks. I admit you're very strong, he taunts, rising to his feet. But do you know why we adventurers can defeat stronger opponents? As if on cue, two figures appear behind Pavel. They are humanoid monsters, both strikingly beautiful, adorned in ornate robes that shimmer with arcane energy. Their eyes glow softly, indicating their magical prowess. Varkas's expression twists into one of disgust. You enslave monsters to do your bidding? He growls, his claws flexing. Your kind's depravity knows no bounds.
Pavel schruks nonchalantly.
I prefer to think of it as utilizing all available resources. Meet Lyra and Celine, my trusted aides. Lyra, a lithe figure with emerald hair, begins chanting, her hands weaving intricate patterns in the air. A golden aura envelopes Pavel as she casts Fortify Vitality, a Tier 3 spell that enhances his endurance and accelerates healing. Simultaneously, Celine, with her silver locks cascading down her back, raises her staff and intones a melodic incantation. A translucent barrier forms around Pavel, the Aegis Shield, a Tier 4 spell that significantly boosts his defense against both physical and magical attacks. Feeling the surge of power from the buffs, Pavel rolls his shoulders and grins. Now, shall we continue? Varkas snarls, his disdain evident. Come on. He lunges forward, his claws aiming for Pavel's throat. Pavel reacts with heightened speed, parrying Varkas's strike with his greatsword. The enhanced endurance from Lyra's spell allows him to absorb the impact without faltering. He counters with a swift horizontal slash, aiming for Varkas's midsection. Varkas leaps back, narrowly avoiding the blade. He circles Pavel, searching for an opening. With a guttural growl, he unleashes Rending Claw, a Tier 3 skill that sends a wave of energy shaped like claw marks hurtling toward Pavel. Pavel braces himself as the attack crashes against the Aegis Shield, the barrier shimmering but holding firm. Seizing the moment, he charges forward, activating Bull Rush, a Tier 3 skill that propels him with immense force toward Varkas. The sudden burst catches Varkas off guard. Pavel slams into him, sending the lycanthrope skidding backward. Without giving him a chance to recover, Pavel follows up with Cleave, a Tier 4 skill that delivers a powerful, sweeping strike capable of hitting multiple foes. Varkas manages to raise his arms in defense, but the impact sends a shockwave through his body. He snarls, blood seeping from a gash on his forearm. Is this how you fight? Hiding behind slaves and spells? Pavel chuckles. It's called strategy. Perhaps you should try it sometime. Varkas's eyes blaze with determination as he watches Pavel's smug demeanor. He knows that to overcome Pavel and liberate the enslaved monsters, he must unleash his full potential. With a deep, guttural growl, Varkas begins to channel his inner power. His muscles swell further, veins pulsating with raw energy. Dark fur bristles as a crimson aura envelopes his towering frame. He activates Blood Moon Ascendance, a Tier 5 bloodline skill that taps into the primal might of his lycanthropic heritage, amplifying his strength and agility to unparalleled levels. Simultaneously, Varkas invokes Howl of the Alpha, a Tier 5 buff skill. Throwing his head back, he releases a thunderous howl that reverberates across the battlefield. The sound waves ripple through the air, infusing him with heightened senses and resilience, while instilling a primal fear in those who dare oppose him. Pavel's grin falters as he senses the monumental shift in Varkas's presence. The two enslaved mages, Lyra and Celine, exchange uneasy glances, their confidence wavering. Your reliance on slaves and borrowed power ends here, human. Varkas snarls, his voice a deep, resonant growl. I will free them from your tyranny. Without waiting for a response, Varkas propels himself forward with blinding speed, closing the distance between them in an instant. He unleashes Rending Claw, a Tier 3 skill, his claws glowing with a menacing light as they arc toward Pavel's chest.